happens.
Yes.
Okay. So, um, all right. I want to make sure we have a quorum, which we do. Okay, everyone. So welcome to the Community Choice Schools Commission third quarter meeting for 2025. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And as the chair, it is my intention that everyone present leaves today's meeting having felt engaged, productive, respected, valued, and heard. And so with that said, I call this meeting to order at 8:13 a.m. on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. And with that, I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. And we can stand for the pledge. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We should practice that in person so that we're all in sync. Well, like 1, 2, 3. Okay, Kathy, we're on roll call.
Okay, Chairperson Trish Schreiber.
Present.
Vice Chair Katie Wright.
Excused.
Treasurer John Rutt.
Here.
Mark Huffstetler.
Excused.
Dr. Katie Franklin.
Here.
Chip Lindenlaub.
Here.
And Taylor Ramos.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum. Okay, so the Community Choice Schools Commission encourages the public to participate in the commission discussions and points of action. People attending online should raise their hand when asked for public comment or to ask questions of guests. Anyone wishing to participate in commission discussions or considerations of action will be recognized by the chairperson in keeping with normal board parliamentary procedure. So before we get started, I want to know if any of our visitors online would like to speak and introduce themselves before the commission starts our work. You can just raise your hand if so.
Madam Chair, we have Mark Casaza. I hope I said that right.
Okay, Mark, please join us.
Did I unmute there? Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Yeah, this is Mark Casaza of Great Adventure Academy. I'm actually in Lodgegrass right now. We're building a facility for kids to stay at while their parents are in rehab. We're training 5 teachers from Lodgegrass to be charter school teachers, construction ag teachers. And we start teaching lessons at Lodgegrass High School next week. So we're actually, Great Adventure Academy got a $300,000 grant, and we already started our school. So it's pretty exciting. Before the schools are going, we're up and running. So that's it. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you, and congratulations for getting that grant. That's impressive, and the work that you're doing too. Thank you very much for sharing. Is there anyone else?
Madam Chair, I don't see any other hands up, but I would welcome. We have our new program officer who's going to be working on the public charter schools is Leanne Munker. She just started yesterday and she's listening in today, so she's on as well.
Welcome, Leanne. And then for the commission members who are new, just so you know, Leanne also participated on the commission steering committee back in, I think it was 2023 maybe, and into 2024, where we were developing policy before we had a director of planning, and we needed to have a sounding board for all of our work. So thank you, Leanne, for your dedication to Montana, and welcome. We are very excited to have you here. Okay, so with that, let's go on to agenda item number 1. So is there a motion for the consent agenda containing the minutes from the meeting on June 17th, 2025?
I'll make a motion.
I
Thank you.
second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda containing the minutes from June 17th. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. If you guys can take your microphones off, it'll make this faster because I can't necessarily see every hand that's being raised. So all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the consent agenda has been passed unanimously. So is there a motion for the adoption of today's agenda?
I move we adopt today's agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept today's agenda. We adopt today's agenda. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. So all those in favor of adopting today's agenda, say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, today's agenda has been approved unanimously. All right. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today. We had a little bit of a rough start, but we got it. So in addition to the standard business we have to conduct, we have a training session with the National Charter School Institute and an introductory presentation with NACSA, the National Association of Charter School Authorizers. So both of these activities are part of the Commission's overall training in becoming more familiar with the aspects of responsibly authorizing charter schools in our state. As a reminder to the public, almost every Commission meeting dating back to October of 2023 contains at least one training session about charter schools and charter authorizing. All Commission meeting videos are linked to the BPE website under the Choice School tab under Meetings, and I recommend anyone interested in learning about the Choice Schools to watch the videos. It's quite a collection of information at this point. And today's meeting marks 2 full years of the Commission having assembled. And though we've accomplished so much work, we still have a lot to do, as everyone knows. So today, we will also be introducing 2 new Choice Commission members, as the law set the first commission on staggered terms so as to promote continuity and stability of the commission through natural changes. So, as usual, as chair, my intention for the day is for everyone to leave today's meeting feeling engaged, productive, valued, respected, and heard. And with that, we will proceed to item 3 on the agenda. So before I introduce our new commission members, I want to be sure to thank Dee Brown for her enduring and unwavering support of the improvement of education across the state of Montana. Her service as a commission member was just one of the many roles she played to support students, teachers, and parents. So it's with hearts full of sincerity I speak on behalf of the commission in honoring one of our inaugural commission members, Dee Brown. So I just want to thank you publicly, Dee, for all of your service. And Dee sent us a note that I would like to share with the commission. It's this cute little happy face note. And it says, "Dear Trish and Choice School advocates, I thank you for the opportunity to make a difference for Montana students, a mission with great rewards. Keep up the work for a vision of making each student shine since they all have gifts. I enjoyed working with all of you and will watch from a distance. My best, Dee Brown." I miss Dee already. Okay, but I am very pleased to have our two new members with us and excited to start working with them. So I am going to introduce you guys just very briefly and have you give a self-introduction. This is something we all did at the first commission meeting when we were appointed as commissioners or commission members. So Chip, we're going to start with you. I'd like to welcome our newest member, Chip Lindenlob, who was appointed by the President of the Senate starting on September 1st, 2025, and Chip's term will go for 3 years. Okay, Chip, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Schreiber. I also want to thank Senate President Regier for appointing me. As you just said, it's going to be impossible to replace Representative Brown's or to replace her, but I'll do my best to contribute what I can. A little bit about me. My dad was a public school teacher, and we spent a lot of time discussing education. As a kid, I loved airplanes and thought it might be fun to fly. So fortunately, I was able to make that dream come true. And for 38 years, I flew airplanes. Most people aren't aware how much training, they call it training, but really it's education, training, and evaluation that pilots go through in a career. So I've done a lot of that. Somewhere along the way, I learned about classical education, and 5 years ago, I joined a group of people trying to start a private classical school that eventually evolved into a movement to bring charter schools to Montana. And after failing in 2021, we met now Chair Schreiber, and she led the way in 2023, as you know, to get the legislation passed. Our goal all along was to make sure that students from any financial background could afford to attend any school that we opened. I'm still part of the board, and we hope to open a classical school called Polaris Classical Academy. Most importantly, I've attended, I think, nearly all of your meetings and watched your amazing work. I'm impressed with all that you've accomplished. I look forward to working with you and doing my best to help see these schools get opened as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. And I'm laughing that you said you've watched almost every meeting, which is true. So watch out to participants who are watching when I suggested you watch the meetings. If you do, the next thing you know, we're going to ask you to be a commission member. So there's always going to be a payoff. So thank you, Chip. We appreciate your dedication to Community Choice Schools. Okay, and now I would also like to welcome Taylor Ramos. And Taylor, go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you, Trish. Chair Schreiber. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to joining the commission. I am currently a stay-at-home mom. I have a 1.5-year-old son. And so my experience is looking to the next generation and how we can bring these schools to the young ones that are coming up. I have always been unsure of how I wanted to educate my child, and I've had the same sentiments of those around me expressed, and so I thought, what better way to look out for all the young ones that are coming up than joining the commission and seeing what we can get through and get past and started in Montana. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Taylor. Welcome. And also just to let everyone know, since Taylor just told us she has a little one who's 1.5 years and being a mom first. And so from time to time, Taylor may need to turn her camera off and go run and take care of a little child or something like that. And I've told her that is absolutely fine. We know she's engaged and she's listening, and mostly she'll be able to 100% participate. But I just wanted to give you grace ahead of time, so you know it is absolutely fine. Okay, moving on to item 4, we have committee reports. So we will start with John and the treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. If you bring up on your screen in our agenda packet, we have a Board of Public Education revenue expenditure comparison by what we call funds and our organization. But we've kind of broken our reporting out into two different funds. We originally were able to raise $27,500 to kind of get the ball rolling and start paying for our legal expenses a couple of years ago. And we still maintain that fund as our general fund. And there's approximately, there at the bottom, you'll see there's approximately $19,000 or about $20,000 still in that fund that we kind of leave as set aside as our emergency fund. We then received the Bradley grant, which was $300,000 last year. And that grant is to be used for anything to promote and get to the point where we can open charter schools and operate charter schools. And so that's our primary expenditure fund right now. We use that for our director of planning salary. We use it for anything else that kind of comes up before the board or any of our expenses. And at this point in time, we approximately have about $180,000 in that fund left. But we've done some projections, and we're still on track to meet the requirements and the goals of that grant and be within compliance. And so everything is looking good, and we have we're moving forward. So any questions? Okay.
Great.
Well,
Thank you, John. And this time, yay, congratulations, there are no errors. And of course, we all checked it after last time. We made sure that we gave it a good look. So thank you, John. Okay, we're going to move on to the fundraising subcommittee, and I am going to give that report. So, first and foremost, what we did over the summer is we applied for another grant for 2026. And ultimately, we hope to extend the Director of Planning's position and continue the operational support for the commission through the year of 2026. The grant application requested funding really for three things is the broad picture. So number one, to develop a year zero program. Number two, to continue provision of operational support for the volunteer commission. And number three, to promote community choice schools via public relations with families, educators, and interested community members across Montana, including potential donors. So the Year Zero program will guide founders through a year-long process to fully build out their academic, operational, and financial policies and procedures required to open their schools. So it's to fill in that gap between signing a charter contract and opening up their doors. To achieve these goals, the commission requires the current director of planning and additional funds to develop guidebooks, video workshops, training series, attend town halls throughout the state, and all kinds of activities. So that's how we imagine the grant money would be spent next year if we're lucky enough to get it. So we expect to hear about the grant in late November. And if we don't get the grant, we still have funds in our account, as John just reported in the treasurer's report. So we'll have some time to kind of figure out what to do next. Additionally, the committee is now mapping out a fundraising campaign designed to engage with individual donors and businesses. As you know, the law was changed over this past session that broadened the type of donor that we can accept donations from. And we haven't had to do that yet because at this point we're fully funded through 2025 and a little bit into 2026. But it's something that we need to look at for the future. Simultaneously, the committee is just now starting the process of registering with SAM.gov, which is the official U.S. government system for applying for charter school program funds. So the new administration, as you know, is very eager to get funds to states in order to promote innovative charter school models, as well as all school choice policies. So we're keeping a close eye on the Department of Education's notices of grant opportunities because new grants are popping up all the time that fit into different categories. And we're just simply going through the process of registering as an entity so that we're ready should the right opportunity arise. So we are not applying for any federal grants. That's actually something we would bring to the commission before we did it, because it's a very serious issue as far as our obligations would be to follow through on that grant, like to the T. But we're just getting registered. So that is what we have been up to. Are there any questions? Okay, I'll move on to the chair report. So with the change of membership on the commission, the subcommittees need to be adjusted. So for the rest of 2025, here are the members of the subcommittees. So for the fundraising subcommittee, it'll be John Rutt, Trish Schreiber, and Taylor Ramos. The policymaking subcommittee will be John Rutt and Chip Lindenlaub. The Special Education Consideration Committee will stay the same with Katie Franklin and Trish Schreiber. And of course, the Executive Committee remains the same with the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. Now, according to the commission's bylaws, when formed, subcommittees last for 1 year unless otherwise approved by motion. So at the December's meeting, the commission will reevaluate the need for subcommittees and which ones that we will need for 2026. Additionally, at the December meeting, the commission will vote on officers. So bylaws dictate that executive positions are held for 1 year, and Title 20, Chapter 11, the Community Choice Schools Act, states that the initial chair position is appointed by the governor for a 2-year period. So that means in December of this year, all 3 executive seats will be up for election. So please consider if you would like to nominate a commission member for a particular seat. And certainly if you are interested in serving in a particular seat, let someone know so they can nominate you. So this isn't a time to be shy. We need people to step up and help. So everyone should be thinking about that between now and December. And speaking of December, our meeting will be in person in Helena and will commence at 12:30 p.m. and likely last for 3 to 4 hours. We decided to start in the afternoon rather than in the morning, which gives people time to travel to Helena and or to finish up with some work that they might have that day. And then we can have the meeting in the afternoon. But of course, everyone is always welcome to join by Zoom, but we would prefer everyone could show up in person. And of course, you'll be reimbursed for your travel expenses. So since June's meeting, Kathy and I created an evaluation format for the director's position. So the evaluation will occur quarterly and culminate in an annual performance report. This was harder to develop than you might imagine, and we're still working out some of the details to make it more efficient, but the purpose is to provide feedback to the director and to the chair about how specific work is progressing while simultaneously making goals for the next quarter. So if anyone is interested in viewing this report, just contact Kathy and she will share it with you. And of course, if anyone wants to participate in that evaluation, if they have some feedback that they want to give to the director, that's the time to do it. We're going to be doing this every quarter. So just make sure to communicate and everyone is welcome to participate in that evaluation. As chair, I have also been engaging in one-on-one coaching sessions with Jim Gunner as part of the contract with the Institute. So we've been discussing and planning best practices of governance for sustaining healthy board relationships and setting the commission up for success over the long run. These have been great sessions, and coaching, like when we have our fall advance in October, we're all going to be getting direct coaching from Jim Gunner. That's part of what we're contracted for. So that has been terrific, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's about it. So are there any questions about the chair activity or anything that's going on in general? Okay. It looks like we're good. So let's go ahead and move on to the Director of Planning report. Kathy?
Madam Chair, yes, before we do that, we did skip over the policy subcommittee
Oh,
and the special
I just
education
missed that
subcommittee.
completely. Sorry. I just
You
was
just got
so
excited.
eager to do my own reports that I just was like, I want to get them over with so I can listen. Okay, so let's back up. We are going
There
to
we
have a policy making special committee, and that is John who is going to report on it. Thank you.
So we had our last meeting August 8th, or in August, and we reviewed so part of what we're doing is some of our back room work. And so we have 3 documents that we've kind of been working on: a conflict of interest, a background check, and the Board of Public Education general supervision. So we're just trying to define these types of policy so that when schools are making applications, or they wonder what we can and can't do, this will help to define some of those limitations, and also our relationship with the Board of Public Education. So as of August, we're still working on those. We've made some changes. We've made minor things that come along, and I believe that we're going to bring them in December to the main board for approval once we've tweaked them as much as we want to. Is that correct, Trish?
That is very close to correct, except we're actually going to look at them today because Kathy was able to work with the lawyer in time
Okay.
to get them ready for today. So we're ready to go forward with those at the end of the meeting. Thanks, John.
Okay. All right. So if there's any questions or not, we can bring that up at the end of the meeting when we discuss them.
Okay. Okay, we are now moving on to the Special Education Consideration Committee, and we are going to ask Katie Franklin to make her report.
Yeah. So the purpose of the Special Education Subcommittee is to determine how the commission is going to review applications and support community choice schools' ability to serve students with special needs and ensure compliance with federal law. So this is going to be really challenging for choice schools as they're likely going to operate with small staffs. The subcommittee is currently exploring resources to determine the best path forward and to make recommendations for applicants. So already there's been meetings for the Center for Learning Equity discussing best practice for ensuring small schools across large geographic regions are connected with resources to properly implement all federal special education laws. Sorry, I'm scrolling. We also had a meeting with the director of a Montana Special Education Service Cooperative, Sarah Novak, that there are 21 cooperatives like this across the state under the leadership of special education directors. So within these cooperatives, small districts contract for services for special education professionals, such as school psychs, PT, OT, speech and language, and those contracted services travel across the region to serve special education students as part of these cooperatives. Per that meeting, our current understanding is that a SPED teacher needs to be a licensed educator in the state, employed by the district. And we're going to continue to explore and seek to understand these federal laws and how they will interface with choice schools. That's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about this? Any suggestions? Okay, great. So now we can move on to the report from the Director of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have quite a bit to report on since our last meeting. The bulk of my work has been around program and policy development. I'm happy to report, kind of got through all the administrative functions and getting everything established in the first quarter, I guess, of my work. But currently, I am working with the National Charter Schools Institute. We meet every week, and what we're working on right now is revamping the timeline of the new charter application policy, or the period policy, I guess. Yes. So the bulk of that was set in the summer months. And as we're trying to get together subcommittee meetings and commission meetings in the summer, we've realized that it is very difficult to nail everyone down in the summer months. So we reevaluated that and are able to start the process in the early winter so that it can wrap up by mid-spring and hopefully will not interfere with your schedules too much. So in doing that, we're also looking at kind of all of the nuances of the policy. So actually thinking through everything that it's going to take from an applicant and from the commission to implement everything. So I'm also working on outlining several procedures, such as procedures for the interview, making sure that application directions are clear to the applicants, putting together summaries for the executive summary or the director's summary of the full application. So that's what we're working on right now, and I anticipate that is kind of the bulk of this, the work. The next pieces we'll get into are renewal and then approving other authorizers. But I think once we get this done, things are going to move much quicker as this is really, thinking through the bulk of the work of what the commission will be completing. So enjoying that, and it's exciting. We're getting great support and resources from the National Charter Institute. One of the other policy pieces I've been working on is under the direction of the State Procurement Department. We have initiated an RFP for assessment services. So we've talked about this a little bit before, the idea of because the law allows schools to choose their own assessment, we wanted to provide some guidance with that so that schools we know have good, reliable assessments to choose from, and we have guidance from the commission as to how to read and use the reports and measure their progress. So we did get an application that met all of the qualifications. They did a fantastic job outlining their deliverables, specific timelines for completion, regular communication back to the commission. So we are in the process of contracting, and we look forward to beginning that work hopefully soon here. And the project will culminate with a presentation to the commission on those assessments that they recommend. Part of my role is also research and best practice. I had the ability to attend the National Charter Schools Conference in late June, and that is a convening of, I would say, over 5,000 charter school folks, anywhere from teachers to authorizers to state agencies, etc. And it's just the networking and the informal conversations, again, are always so valuable at these conferences. But two of the big takeaways that I had is one, how do we ramp up when we get to that point of all of the support for schools and for policy here in Montana? So I was able to network and spend some time in sessions, just learning more about the advocacy role, how we can provide resources, and really balancing that oversight and support of schools to ensure that we get the quality results that we want for kids. So one of the other sessions I attended was a very specific technical session on CSP grant writing, and it was fantastic. So I feel like I came away with a definite toolbox and some resources to reach out to when we do get to that point, which will likely be later probably winter. We would start on that. I continue to attend the National Association of Charter School Authorizers monthly webinars. They have three of them. They've just started a new one. So one of them is basically around kind of the academic side of authorizing. Another is on financial oversight. And the third that they've just now started are communications. And I will continue to send you their monthly updates. And there's always links to those webinars in there if anyone is interested in attending. I do find them to be just very relevant to where we are right now with authorizing and where we'll be in the future. One of the other plugs I will put in is for the Bold by Choice podcast. I have been listening to all of those, and typically when I get into a podcast, it's kind of a multitask, but these ones are so good, I actually sit and take notes. So if any of you are interested, this is Jim Gunner and his team at the National Charter Schools Institute. They're fantastic, and they really take you from the very beginning of authorizing and chartering and just kind of lead through all the nuances. And I think just some great advice for us as we're going forward. So I will, yeah, I think I've sent those to you all, and I will continue to plug those. I'm also going to plug the National Association for Charter School Authorizers Conference this August or October. They will be making a presentation to us a little later in our meeting this morning, but I am attending that conference. It's October 20th to the 22nd in Houston, and they start that with an Authorizer 101 session. And the content of that is actually going through a mock charter authorizing cycle. So I'm very excited to participate in that, and lots of other sessions offered at the training as well that are very relevant to our work. Then as far as administrative management, we have a member handbook to review this afternoon that we have compiled, or I guess this morning. I've been working with and facilitating the subcommittee meetings. And additionally, we're in the process of finding a new lawyer. So the State Administrative Legal Services Bureau, who we've been using, is no longer in operation for the state. So we are on our own to find a lawyer. We have an interview with a lawyer this Wednesday and are hoping to proceed with that. So the work of this lawyer will just be around our policy work. So when we put together the new policies, we send this to the legal services. They review it per the Community Choice Schools law and then any other applicable law. So similar to what we've done with the conflict of interest and the background check policies. And finally, just in terms of public relations, there is an interim education funding committee currently meeting, and their work is large to essentially reevaluate the whole Montana school funding formula. So I'm attending those meetings with just a lens as to how this might impact community choice schools. And being that choice schools are public schools, will be funded the same way as how this commission determines funding should be. Ultimately, they're going to make recommendations for the next legislative session. So if any of you are interested in watching their recordings, they are all available, and you can just let me know as well. And finally, I've just been making more efforts to connect with those that have expressed interest in community choice schools. So we've had, I would say probably 3 or 4 that have been solid with us all the way, but just a few more kind of rising up and expressing interest, which is very exciting. So I'm just meeting with them kind of one-on-one to provide support and give them more information about the law, kind of where we are currently, and what they should be doing in the meantime while they're waiting for the application cycle to open. And that is all. Thank you. Any questions?
That means you gave a thorough report.
It felt like it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so moving on to item 5. We are actually a tiny bit ahead of schedule since we were, even though we started behind schedule. So I'm looking at the agenda. We've got item 5, which goes for about 45 minutes, and then we had planned to take a break. I just wanted to see if everyone's okay with that, or if anyone would like to take a short break right now, and we could start up again at 9. Katie would like to. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and break we'll come back here at 9 a.m. and everyone enjoy your brief break. We'll be right back. Great. Taylor said she had to switch to her phone. Has she joined us?
Yep, it looks like she's rejoining now.
Okay,
Oh, yes, I'm here.
great. Thank you. Okay. And Little Stockton. Okay.
Yes, me too.
So, we are going on to item number 5. Thanks everyone for coming back. So I want to introduce Stephanie McKean, Epicenter Director of Operations. And it looks like we also have Alice, the whole like, that's like a magic trick. And we also have Allison Murphy from the National Charter School Institute. And Allison is who Kathy's been working so closely with on all the policy development and everything. Plus, a lot of you know Allison from our first advance that we had back in 24. So welcome, and we are looking forward to learning about Epicenter. I'll let you guys take it away from here.
Hey, thank you guys. Welcome. It's so great to see you. Again, I'm Allison Murphy, and
I'm Stephanie McKean. Can everybody hear us okay too? We want to make sure our microphone's working well.
Yeah,
Can you
we're
hear
good.
us? Okay. Okay, perfect.
We're going to go ahead and
Oh, you guys,
share.
really quick, I just want to interrupt you by letting the commission know that we are at ease during this presentation. So you should feel free to go ahead and ask your questions directly to Allison and to Stephanie without having to go through the chair. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Perfect. All right. Well, just as a refresher for those of you who were here last April, or if you are newer to the commission, Epicenter is a software platform to help manage all aspects of your authorizing life coming up and even now. Epicenter, let me just hit the button correctly. So it's one system to help you manage every
Okay,
that
I'm
you're
going to
going
interrupt you real quick,
to
Allison.
do as an authorizer and even now in the process. So it really helps. Yeah.
Okay, I am having trouble hearing you guys. Your mic is going in and out. Is that the same for everyone else in the commission?
Yes, that's the same for me.
Okay, I'm not sure why, but I want to give you guys a sec to see. What we had to do earlier is like log off and log back in. That's something you might want to try. I don't know, but the mic is off and on.
Or maybe turn off their camera.
Yeah, that might.
We'll turn off our camera. Can you hear us okay still?
We can.
Awesome.
Good suggestion, Katie. All right, thanks.
All right.
Perfect. Sorry about that. So Epicenter will help manage all aspects of the life cycle of a charter school. So right now with the commission, Epicenter is helping kind of get everything ready for you to start off your authorizing life in a great way so that you can hit the ground running. And we'll hop over to the live site in just a minute to show you how you can currently use Epicenter right now today in your roles. But right now in this life cycle of a charter school, I would say that we are working with you kind of even before that number 1, that application phase. So right now we are helping use Epicenter to manage kind of the commission processes, procedures that we're doing, your template documents. We'll show you how to access your board profiles and board minutes and agendas. And then once you guys are able to start authorizing schools, we'll use it to help you with the application process, startup. The big chunk of what you will use Epicenter for is monitoring this performance, oversight, and accountability throughout a charter school's contract term, and then through renewal. And then every now and then closure. We understand that is part of the charter school life cycle sometimes. So again, right now we are kind of pre-number 1, getting you guys set up, ready to go so that you can be amazing right from your day 1 of authorizing with school. we're into the live site and show you what you can do right now in our invitation email. Have any issues creating your account or accessing the system, we'll make sure that you have my contact information so that we can make sure you get in and set up into the system successfully. But I'll turn it over to Stephanie so that she can show you what you can currently do in there right now.
All right, so you should be seeing on the screen Epicenter. As Allison mentioned, Epicenter is fully web-based platform. So anywhere you're at, you know, from your phone, your computer, you can simply go to my.epicenternow.org, log in, and you'll have access to the documents and the files that are currently being set up. As Allison mentioned, you should have all received an Epicenter user invitation email. Again, if you don't see that, we did resend those out this morning. But again, if you don't see them or you can't find it, always check your spam or your junk. And then again, if you still can't locate it, feel free to reach out to Kathy, or you can reach out to our team and we'll double check it to make sure we got the right email. So for today, we want to just provide just a quick overview of the areas that are currently being built out into Epicenter. First two I want to mention is that Epicenter, again, was built pretty much, you know, for authorizers. And I say that because the tool helps to make those regulatory, those different requirements and information that your schools are going to have to submit to you easy. So when I'm a school and I sign in, I'll be able to quickly see in my dashboard, do I have any tasks or things that I need to submit to Montana? Epicenter is going to send out reminder emails to your schools when there's an item coming due. And then if it's not submitted, it will also send out a past due reminder. So it takes a lot of that having to reach out to the schools, wondering where it's at. Epicenter can help manage and make that process more efficient. Also with Epicenter 2, it's not only housed, used to house different documents and things that you're collecting, but it also can become your overall CRM. So if you want to be able to quickly contact the school principal or the data manager from the school, a lot of authorizers will set up those key contacts from their schools and have quick access to them. In addition, we like to also refer to your overall portfolio. So with Epicenter, you're going to be interacting with the school boards, management or ESP service provider. So if any of your schools work with a service provider, it's really important for the authorizer to identify those organizations and the key contacts. Of course, the individual schools, and we're also going to position Epicenter so in the future, you'll be able to even set up and track any reporting requirements from other authorizers in the state of Montana. So with that as well too, right now the compliance is saying no data, but in the future, again, even when it comes to the pre-opening or startup process of a school, you'll have all that built into Epicenter and be able to quickly see, are any of my schools missing any of those pre-opening requirements or the annual operating requirements? You'll be able to have that quick glance when you sign in to see that past due information. If I hop over to our demo environment, I have a separate tab. Just want to show you what that will look like in the future. So again, it will be able to show you what are those, what's the total number of requirements or tasks that have been assigned to the schools through today, and what's their overall submission and on-time rate. And you'll be able to quickly go to past due. So again, once those pre-opening requirements, the annual operating requirements are built, that will be able to give you a quick view, portfolio view of all of your schools. And again, quickly navigate down to anything that might be outstanding.
Stephanie,
if I go back, go ahead.
So
yeah.
Is this compliance, looking at this, is this for all of the schools in the portfolio, or is this looking at one school?
This will be your view. So this would be all schools.
Okay.
When an individual school logs in, they would only be able to see their school information, their compliance statistics. So this is more of a portfolio view in this example, and especially too for your login, you would see all schools in your login.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily tell you like what those 2% that are
It
not.
does. Actually, in Epicenter, all of our charts, yes, all of our charts are interactive. So if you see, hey, you know, we do have some past due requirements. What are those? You can click on that portion of the chart. It will drill down in here. Because it's such a small portion here, it got to the green in this specific example.
Right.
But if I refresh here, it's actually going to show me anything that's past due at the top. So I can see the ones here that are past due. It will show me then what that specific task is and which school or board or even a management organization you can assign tasks to, who's missing it basically.
Awesome. Thank you.
Also, even if you go back, so that actually brought me into the Compliance Center. But if I hop back to the Statistics tab in Compliance Center, you're going to get even more statistical information as well. So again, it always defaults to that portfolio view, all of your schools, all of your boards, but then you can always drill down into those individual schools and see how they're doing. And again, it's all interactive. If I want to click and see what is that one thing that's past due for Achievement House, I can see they're missing their transparency plan. I can see when it was due, how many days were late, and even who's assigned to it from the school. So that will be super helpful to have that insight there. If I transition back over to your Epicenter, so the two areas that Kathy and the team have been building out have been your board information and then also housing all of those templates and resources for the commission. So right now in your side nav bar, the board center component and your commission or internal center is what's currently being built out. Once you start having the ability for applications, you'll be able to go into Application Center, see how many have been submitted, do the review process, and then if they get approved, then they kind of transition over into the school center. That's kind of the flow. Again, it will go from application phase to setting them up in school center, which again would be the pre-opening phase, and then just that annual operating phase. So if you hop into Board Center here in the side menu, it's currently going to default to your board. Again, in the future, when we have school boards, those will also be listed here. But the two areas that are helpful and that have been built out is your members tab. So this is going to track all of yourselves, the current members, what your term is, specific information, contact information, your roles. So you're already building this history. In addition, the other component here is being able to find all those files that are being uploaded for your board. So if you hop over to the Submissions tab, similar to Google or SharePoint, you're going to see your electronic filing cabinet here on the left-hand side. So with the electronic filing cabinet, you can see specific categories. So kind of think of this as a folder structure. So if I expand and I want to maybe bring up the last board meeting agenda, I can see right here, here's the board meeting agenda. If I click on it, we can see the meeting back here in June. You can also get quick access to the agenda, and the final packet is all available for you as well. And the policies. So as those are being created here, if you want to quickly get to the bylaws, those have been uploaded and even show the last date when they were approved. So a few different ways to get to that information. I do want to highlight our global search though at the top. So if you're like me, I'm coming into Epicenter. I know exactly sometimes what I want. If I just start typing in, maybe I'm trying to find the bylaws. As soon as I start typing that in, here's that particular document for me to choose. And it's going to bring into the bylaws area here. You can download it to your computer by clicking on it. Or you can simply just view it here too. So if you want quick access, maybe you're out and about and you want to bring up the bylaws on your phone, you can do that quickly. Anything else? Any questions that have come in so far, Trish, or anything to expand upon on Board Center?
No, we look good.
I have one question quickly.
Great.
Is the search specific to the what you filtered out, or is it site-wide? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so up here at the top, this is more of like the global search. So this is going to kind of search anything that's been uploaded into the system, whether it's specific to the boards or if it's a commission resource. This is going to track any of that information. So this again is kind of more of that global. It is autocomplete, so it is going to give you results here. So it'll give you results for contacts, the entities, which are the schools or the boards, even down to the individual documents. Now, if I go over into the center, though, and click on boards, then I'm only going to be viewing and searching board-specific documents. So that gets you right into those board items. And again, the commission, this is where all of your templates, resources, guides are being built out. They are kind of grouped by category as well. So if you hop into the Montana Charter Law and you go over to the submissions, again, you can see some of the HB charter law documents that have been loaded as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So right now, I'd say you're in a fantastic position by already providing that history of documentation for your board meetings, having a location for your templates and guides, and then again in the future, you're going to be positioned to track everything from application even down to possible closure. So I will show you if I hop back over to the demo site, which again has been kind of built out to mirror a fully functioning authorizer. When I go into their filing cabinet, I'm going to go right into documents. Again, you'll kind of see all the different things that you might potentially be collecting for the schools, the boards, even your service providers. So again, you're going to have all that information readily available here within your electronic filing cabinet and be able to quickly search and bring it up. I'd say too, the schools love Epicenter because when they're working on their tasks within the system, so again, school users, when they sign in, they'll be able to jump right into any of their tasks that have been assigned to them. What they really appreciate is when they open up a task here. So I'm just going to open up a task here where I need to upload my school policy. What's great about Epicenter is that you can provide all the information that they need to know. What is it that they need to upload? Is there a resource they need to fill out? So you can provide all of that direction to them in these tasks. And after they've been using Epicenter, in the future, they can even click on the History tab and see, what did I upload last year? So if you have, new school leaders, new individuals from the schools, they want to quickly see, what did we upload last year potentially for this requirement? They have that quick access to be able to see what might have been uploaded last year. And it supports the whole workflow. So as soon as the schools upload something, You might have a team or a department then that's responsible for reviewing it. They will have tasks in their queue. They'll get reminders to make sure they're reviewing those documents that are coming in. And even on the reviewer approver side, they're going to have their own area to do their review, and they can accept it, or they can even return it back and say, hey, it's missing a signature, or you didn't upload your balance sheet with your monthly financials. So there's also that interactive piece inside of Epicenter. All right, well, I'm going to hop back to your site. What other questions do you have, or curiosities?
Stephanie, one of the things in Allison that I have learned a ton about that I think others might be interested in is, and I think this will be kind of like the first touch point for the commission, will be the application. So the new school application. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that and just how like the pieces that are automated for both the applicant and for the authorizer, and kind of what we would expect from an authorizing point of view and applicants could expect from their point of view.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So with the application component of it, what will be great is that with the application, you're able to publish it on your public website. And so there'll be a link that will be created so they can come in, they can fill it out, get access to it. I'm not sure too, is there going to be a letter of intent piece of it too? Yep. So, okay, perfect. So they can go through, submit their letter of intent, and then once you decide, yes, they can go ahead and move forward, they can then kind of be granted that next piece and get the actual application presented to them. Your team will be able to see how many letter of intents that you have, where it's at in the review process. You'll be able to see as they're kind of completing the progress of their application. And then once they actually submit it, that's when you can set up your team of evaluators. So they can review all applications, certain applications. They can review certain sections of the application. It's very flexible to how you will potentially set up your evaluator side of application. And so that component will be kind of built out once we kind of get to that next stage here, and it will be available inside of the application center in the side menu.
Stephanie, could you maybe show us on the demo site an application, understanding that every state has a different law and they therefore have a different format, but just to give us an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm back in our demo environment here, going into our application area here. So I'm going to just bring up right here. You can see I'm kind of logged in as an evaluator. So this is an actual application that's been submitted. So I can see I have it available for my approval. So I'm going to go into that application. And then one area too, this is one of the pages that I love as well. This will kind of show you holistically where your team is at with reviewing each section of the application here. So these are the individual evaluators. These are the different sections of the application. You can see where they're at, what their rating was that they put in, and even their comments that they've added for that particular section of the application.
And Stephanie, just remind me, so our actual performance rubric or our performance criteria or evaluation criteria for the application will be in Epicenter, correct?
Exactly. Yep. So it'll be built.
Actually complete the whole, application review right in Epicenter.
Exactly. Yep. You'll be able to do all of that inside of application. So if I actually hop into kind of more of the admin side of it here. So this is, for example, this is an application right now that's open. I can see there's 2 that are kind of in progress, but I'm actually going to show you what it looks like from the applicant's view. So when they're logged in and they're working on their application, which again is fully done then online, They're able to complete their school information, but this side area, this is all customizable. So this is where we take each section of the application and build out each of those questions. So they can kind of navigate fluidly throughout the application and go to each of those sections. I'm just going to put in a school name. So I can show you the next piece here. So these are all kind of customizable. We identify which questions that you want to collect. So this kind of gets us into that first section here. We have some additional questions that they can ask. This is kind of asking, are you a new school? Are you existing school that's changing an authorizer? So this is all customizable to each organization.
Stephanie, I have a question. As the applicants are, so we're looking at the applicant view right now.
Yeah.
So if we're applying for a school, I'd be filling stuff out. Is that something that is private to me until we hit send
It is.
So like the administrator can't go in and look at a school's application until it has been submitted?
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You can
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, you can see the percentage of completion, but you can't actually see the content until they actually submit it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
And if I can just add something quick here. So I recall a while back when we were talking about the new application, we had quite a discussion about, well, what if someone submits an application that isn't complete?
Yeah.
How do we handle that? And remember, in like sending back, do we give them 3 days, or do we just say, gosh, you should have got it right from the start? But it's my understanding, Stephanie, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they actually cannot submit an incomplete application.
Correct. Yeah. If there's required questions in here that have not been completed, it won't let them submit, and it will show them which questions they need to fill out. But after it's been submitted and you're going through kind of, some partners will refer to a completeness phase. If you do see that there's things missing, you can actually kind of unsubmit it for them. They can make further corrections and resubmit. That is an option if it's allowed for your organization. So that's also possible in the system too, because we know that happens. And they can actually go back, add some additional things, and then they can kind of resubmit it too. Then you'd probably start the evaluation side. So it is kind of good to have that completeness check after it's submitted, just to make sure everything's there, nothing big was missing, if that's allowed. I know some organizations don't allow that. They say, oh, you missed your budget. Nope, you can't move forward. So it just depends on how stringent, I guess, the authorizer is. But Epicenter does support that if it needs to be kind of returned back and corrected and resubmitted.
Okay. So are applicants like copying and pasting into these windows, or are they uploading attachments, or does it vary kind of based on how the organizer sets it up?
Yes. Yep. So for each question, you can kind of decide, is it just going to be a text box? Am I going to allow files to be uploaded? So, but yeah, they're pretty much, typing their responses directly into the system, or, uploading files, or doing both.
Okay. I'm thinking we have a policy somewhere, Kathy, that like limits the number of pages for an application. So I suppose if we're doing it this way, that's irrelevant and needs to be updated. Like rather it should be, the applications need to be, submitted in full or whatever.
Good point.
Yeah,
I'll double check how we have that worded.
We can do word limits per question.
Okay.
So I have converted for a partner before. I took their page limits and we did kind of an estimated word count per page and did that for like the questions. I think they did it by section, maybe, I have to recall, but we can do word limits per question.
Great. Okay.
What other questions do you have then for the application side of it?
I think that's the only question I had, was kind of the, is it private to the applicant until they hit submit? Anyone else? I'm very curious. I don't want to rush the order that you guys are going in or anything, but I'm curious to see an actual application from an authorizer's perspective, or a demo one.
So let me go back over here. So that's kind of, again, the view when the applicant's kind of filling it out. I'm going to go back into my view here. I'm trying to figure out the best one to show you. I'm going to go back into applications here. So this is kind of, again, if I'm kind of the authorizer, this is where I'll be able to kind of come in, see my application phase or letter of intent phase. So this would potentially first start out kind of as that letter of intent. You'll be able to see, you know, when does it open on, when does it close. So after this close date, no further applications can be submitted. You can see the number that are in progress, how many have actually been submitted. And then in this case, we've also just gone ahead and assigned the different evaluators to the team too. So they can come in here too and you know, begin evaluate each of the different components of the application. And you can also too at any time come in and print the application. So that's another part of it too, is oftentimes authorizers, once they've gotten applications, they need to put them on the website. This view kind of shows you all the questions. So sometimes authorizers will actually provide this as a resource just to kind of show them that these are the questions that we're going to be asking during the application. So if you need to get a copy of your entire application and the questions, you can quickly print that, save it electronically, post it on your public website if you need to. But this will kind of show you all the questions that are in your application. And then if I go back into here too, if I ever need to download the application as well, you can download that into a zip folder, and this will show you. I'm just going to switch over here. It will provide the application and all the supplemental files. So we provide kind of these raw individual files. If you want, you can combine it as a PDF. We actually have a future feature that's coming that will provide this all as a combined PDF that actually should be available here in this month. So that way you can either get all the individual files, or you can also export it out as a single PDF, especially if you need to put that on your public website as well. So you can easily get it out of Epicenter as well.
I'm wondering, Stephanie, if as evaluators who are going in and looking at these applications, are they generally like just working on their own computer logged into Epicenter, or are they like, you know, maybe logging in from an exclusive tablet or something? Like what's recommended tools wise to make this easy on the evaluators so that they can be organized and not like overwhelmed with all the other stuff going on, kind of thing?
Yeah. So we oftentimes will provide a training to the evaluation team. We even have a video too that we can send out. But what they'll be doing is basically kind of working, you know, inside of the platform. That's why sometimes it's good to, you know, get that the electronic copy of the entire application.
Right.
But when you're actually working in the system, providing their feedback, that's all going to be done inside the platform. So they'll be going through each question, putting in their comments, their ratings directly into the platform in the system online. So they'll have their own username and password to be able to do that.
I'm just thinking that, you know, everyone kind of has their own personal way of processing information. And my guess is that some people are actually going to hit print and want to take notes on a piece of paper and then go back to the platform and load in their comments, or do that on a tablet or something. So all that is possible.
Yeah, that's why I always kind of show them, hey, this is how you can download it, save it on your computer, read through it. Maybe you want to take notes on it. And then we show them how to put those responses directly into the system.
Cool.
Yep.
Right.
That's part of the whole training process that we do with the evaluators. So they're comfortable knowing how do I get the whole application, but how do I put in my feedback?
And does that kind of go section by section, or is it like, you know, you've got the application on, you know, one screen and then the criteria on the other, or?
And that's, you can kind of decide too for the evaluation side of it. Are they going to be reviewing, you know, by section, by question, all of that? We'll kind of figure out. And yeah, they'll basically have the content, and they'll have the question, and below it, they'll be able to put in their feedback and select a rating.
Nice.
On each one. So it's all right there. They have the part of the application, they can read it, and then they basically comment on it and put in a potential rating if that's being asked.
Great.
What other questions can you think of here?
Is there a, I know you have the training apps on the website. Is there a like a demo thing that we can get into and play with it to get used to using Epicenter?
As far as kind of the application piece of it, what we could consider kind of doing is, once we have the application built out, we could, pretend and upload a couple different applications as well to just to kind of practice on the evaluator side of it too. So we could set that up as different tests in the system, and then we can just delete those when you're ready and actually getting actual applications in the system. So that's definitely doable.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kathy, I'm wondering about, the timeline of your work and, you're building out so much and everything, but do you have an idea of when you expect Epicenter to be fully populated for the commission, including the specifics of the application and all of that?
Good question. And I might, if Allison is still there, defer to her, but I mean, is it better to kind of do this as we go, or to put it all in at once and think about it, where everything is complete and how they connect?
Yeah, I think with the application, I was hoping to have it completed definitely by the end of the calendar year, hopefully before. So it'll, a month or two. It's just a matter of being able to get in there and get it all complete according to your template application. So I'm hoping my ideal world, I would have it done by the time of your October retreat. But don't hold me to that. That is my ideal
end of year. I was like, oh, December. I like your
pushing for. Yeah, that's my goal. But give me a little wiggle room in there. But that's my goal.
Okay, and I'm wondering just like technically how this works. So, in having the relationship with Epicenter as an authorizer, so I know that there were some people who would be appointed as like admin, and they can kind of go in and touch everything that's in here. And then there are people who will just be reviewers or viewers, and then of course they're applicants. But kind of going back to the main one, the admin positions, does the commission or do the authorizers rely on Epicenter administrators in order to populate this page, or is this something that authorizers can customize on their own as admin? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
That's a great question. What we've seen, what works best, especially because it's a new technical platform, we oftentimes will build the application and then we get the admin in there, and one of their responsibilities is to review the application, see if there needs to be changes, pretend they're an applicant and actually upload it to make sure nothing's missed. And then as we go, we're happy to teach that admin if they want to learn how to add new questions or put in conditional content. We're definitely able to teach them. It just depends on kind of their level of technical ability, but we typically will build it first, get you in there, reviewing it, providing feedback, and then from there we can kind of decide, do you want us to continue to make changes, or we can train the admin on how to do it as well.
Got it. So it just depends on the authorizer and what their capacity. Right.
And their capacity, exactly. Yep, exactly.
That's terrific.
You got it. Yep. So we actually, I feel like we become part of your team, right? Because we're like in there, we're helping you out, adding things that need to be done. We can set up evaluators. So it's whatever the comfort level is for the authorizer and their capacity.
Got it. And is it the application itself that's kind of the most particular thing that would be uploaded on here, meaning that like as the commission approves policy and we upload policy, like that's fairly easy because that's just like an attachment into our policy file, like digital file.
Yeah, like an actual physical copy of your application. So once they're moving towards potential pre-opening, we put a copy of their application that we've downloaded out and make sure it's quickly available within the actual school center part of it. So there's kind of that transition piece from applicant to pre-opening. And so if I'm just going to hop back into our demo environment, but that is part of the process. And what we also do within your school portfolio page is we use classifications to kind of identify where's the school at in the life cycle. Are they just in kind of startup pre-opening? Because they're going to have different deliverables and requirements versus a school that's currently operating. So this is where you'll be able to kind of start setting up as schools are getting approved. They'll start in that startup phase, and then they'll move into the operating phase and have different deliverables and requirements that they need to upload. Even through authorization, there might be some additional things that you need to collect. And so we kind of use what we call classifications for that.
Okay, so like we're talking about best case scenario next year, we're building out a year zero program for our farmers, which will not be required, but would, is there for them to do should they want that extra support. And we hope they do because it's going to help the schools be successful. But those like the compliance chart, like it's not the application, it's like the year zero process. So you're saying that through the classifications, we can add all of the steps of what they're going to be doing through that year zero process.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So we'll kind of set up, oftentimes we'll set up those individual items that they need to upload during the startup process, but then we create what's called a collection for them. So even though there's multiple things that might need to be uploaded, we set up what we call a collection for those items. So that way you can see holistically where the school's at. So for example, these are pretty common things that might need to be uploaded before a school can open. Everything from the certificate of occupancy, their health permits, their safety permits. So we put these all into a collection, we assign it to the school, and then when you're in compliance, you can easily see kind of where they're at completing all of their year zero startup deliverables.
Got it. Okay, cool.
And would this have a dashboard view too?
Yes, yes. So when you're inside of Compliance Center, and I really like actually when we have a collections tab specifically just for collections. I'm going to go back in time here. But this is where you can see any of those things that have been kind of set up as a collection. Even board meetings is a good one. But this will kind of show you for that specific collection, all the different items that are part of it and what the overall status is. I'll see if I can find a better startup one in here. We have them. We do have an annual site visit one here, but yes, this is going to be able to kind of show you for any of those things that are scheduled as a collection are available, but you can also always see individual tasks as well. So very robust with the filtering and kind of seeing the overall status of anything that the schools are uploading.
Right.
And you can also, too, one of the areas, so I'm working with a partner in Georgia. They have an individual that goes on site and does all their site visits for pre-opening and then during renewals. So we also have an online platform that supports the site surveys or site visits. So if a person's at a school, they can respond. They have a bunch of questions they have to fill out. They can take pictures, upload evidence. So that's also another component too, for that process, which is something that's done during, pre-opening year one, those different site visits that need to happen.
Cool.
So it fully supports the entire life cycle.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the other like very customizable to our commission would be our performance framework. And I see that's, you've got a tab for that over there. So we would have our specific performance framework measures in here, right, for each school. And
You got it.
awesome.
So the three common ones are financial, academic, organizational. So that's kind of what we have in our demo environment here. But again, this is fully customizable to those performance indicators.
Excellent. And we could view this as our whole portfolio of schools, but also each school individually, right?
Exactly. Yep. And you can see when I interact with the pie charts here, it lists the individual schools here, but then I can also drill down into a particular school to see their scorecard. You can even see, what I like about this is it's a summary view, but if I want to see the details and get into the actual inputs into this indicator and the data behind it, you can do that as well. You can print it, share it at board meetings, and then we also have another reporting feature called the school report. So if I go back into the school portfolio here, I'm going to pick on a operating school. But we also have what's called the school report. This helps bring together compliance statistics, their contract. You can even view the contract directly from the page. Shows you what's coming due, anything that's outstanding or past due from the school. The board members whose term might have expired or is going to be expiring. And then you can provide links to performance reports, even including the scorecard information, state data on public websites. So this has been a really powerful feature where it kind of brings together that snapshot, and something that we see used quite a bit at board meetings for the schools. And you can print it as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. And so just to clarify, so you're saying like if I'm the board of Hope Academy and our authorizer is using Epicenter, so we have access to it as well, like we can use it on our end for our own reports also.
Correct. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Okay.
And the boards, they'll have quick access to their information, but we've just found that this report was just such a helpful snapshot without having to go into all the different areas. It really just kind of brings it together into one spot.
Right. Okay, well, I'm looking at the time and we're nearing the end of the presentation. I want to open it up to the board to see if anybody has any specific questions about the Epicenter that weren't answered in the presentation, or if you want some additional information maybe. Okay, Kathy, what about you? Do you have any final comments or thoughts that you want to make?
I think this is going to be an amazing tool for us. I mean, just the ability to simplify the application process, the application review, and then the performance framework, even as we get into annual reports. I know like we could keep going and going and going, but there's so much to show, and I just love the way it compiles everything for us and for schools, as Stephanie was showing. So
great.
It also makes me see how much more work we have to do.
Always looking at the work ahead. Well, that's why we're here. So that's terrific. So just to also kind of let the commission know, one of the ideas that we're floating around is for 2026, once this is fully populated for Montana's Community Choice Schools Commission, that we can, as a board, or as a commission, I should say, like run a mock application cycle and see what it feels like on our end to do that. We could put a couple applications in, or a few I would expect we would get 2 or 3 in a good year. And so we'd be looking at how that feels, how the access, other questions will come up within that process also. So it's just kind of a working idea. We'll see what actually happens with all kinds of things before we decide that that's how we want to use our time. But we're thinking that would be a valuable exercise. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming and for sharing Epicenter with us. That was really just so informative to see, and it's comforting. Because I'm like, oh, we don't have to actually make charts, which takes me forever if I have to do that. So it's like, okay, good. The numbers are there, it prints up and it does it for us. So thank you guys so much. I'm sure we'll be meeting with you again sometime in the future. Did you guys have any last words that you wanted to share with the commission?
Thank you for having us. I was an authorizer for 13 years and used Epicenter, and it let me, as a department of 1, handle oversight for 80 schools. So it truly is a powerful, powerful tool. And so we're really excited for you guys to be fully onboarded with it and to have your own schools ready to go. So
great.
Looking forward
Thank
to
you, Allison. Thank you, Stephanie. We're really looking forward to that. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we're going to go ahead and take a break. We will reconvene in 9 minutes for our next presentation. John, you have a question?
Just, I guess, as a thought, so this build out and I guess purchase of Epicenter is a part of our contract with them. What happens after that? Is it? I mean, is it a monthly cost, an annual cost? Is it something we will charge our schools? I just kind of was curious as to, I know, we've got this contract, we're paying for it, but my question always is, what's it going to cost us afterwards?
Right. So I'm going to let the Institute answer the exact dollar amount, but it's my understanding it's an annual license that we will have for Epicenter. In our law, the commission is charging an authorizer fee. So it would be, we would work this out as a commission, making our decisions about what the fee is. The law outlines, the idea about how much we're allowed to do, and does it work into this? Is this, whatever, but also if it's part of our operating costs. I mean, quite honestly, Allison just said a single person could run 80 applications on their own. So that's an enormous savings to the state as far as human capital goes. So I feel, confident about that. My fear is that it's going to go away. Like I had a taste book, thing that I was running online where all my recipes that I had collected through my whole life and my grandmother's recipes, everything was in there, and then they just went away. And I was like, oh no. So that's my fear. I'll let you guys take over.
Yeah, it is a cost per school, and it depends on the portfolio size. It's about $2,000 per school, but again, it does depend on the portfolio size. So we'd be able to get you more exact numbers to provide to you, just not at the very.
So it's approximately $2,000 per year per school. So, and based upon maybe you probably have a pricing level for 0 to 100 or 0 to 500 or something along that line that you decide, you have your pricing levels for that. That's what I was curious. The specific numbers don't really make that much difference to me, but I just kind of wanted to know how the subscription process worked, because there has to be a subscription process.
Right. Yeah, we have that per school fee. It also depends too on the features that are being used. So again, like the application, scorecard, site visit, we call those kind of the premium features too. Some authorizers use it, some don't. And so it depends too on the features. And then we also have additional services. So if your team wants additional capacity, help, and support by our teams, there's additional administrative things that can kind of be added on. But again, there is that per school per year fee overall. So
I have a question. What if, so as an authorizer, say we're bringing Epicenter in because we want to use it, we're requiring our applicants to use it. What if
Yeah.
they want to upgrade, like if the choice schools want to upgrade whatever it is they're doing on Epicenter, is that something they would do separately or is that not even a possibility? It's just whatever is offered?
We do have individual schools themselves that have purchased Epicenter, and so that way they can actually manage the requirements more in-house. They can get a little bit more detailed of who they need to assign it to within their school. So we do have actually individual schools that purchase their own, and then it links to the authorizer's Epicenter. So we have seen that movement of schools getting their own license of Epicenter too.
Got it. That totally makes sense. John, does that answer your
Yeah.
question? Do you have a follow-up? Okay, we're good. All right. Well, I'm looking at the time. It's 9:56 right now. So let's take a break until 10:10 and we will come back and have our next presentation. Does that work for everyone? Okay, see you at 10:10. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Bye now.
Okay, it looks like we are. Sorry. All right, it looks like we're all back. Our presenters here, Kathy or McCall, have they arrived? Okay, great. So item 7 on the agenda is the National Association of Charter School Authorizers, also called NACSA, more familiarly for people. I want to introduce Jay Whalen, Director of Authorizing and School Quality, and Gina Post, Director of Fundraising and Business Development. And trying to make a decision. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and listen to the introduction, and let's stay in Robert's rules as far as discussion. So I would like us to raise our hand using the Zoom tool, and the chair will call on you, and then you guys can ask questions of Gina and Jay. And just to let you know, I'm only doing this to see how it goes. So I'm kind of testing out a new method, and I will evaluate afterwards and for future meetings. Okay, thanks everyone. Go ahead, take it away.
Hi, thanks. Before we get into it, we have one other colleague with us, and she has joined the meeting.
What's her name?
Elisa Westifer. Would it be possible for her to also be allowed?
Yes, that is fine.
Super, thank you.
Just make sure that gets on the minutes. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, Elisa Westifer, welcome.
There we go. Great.
Okay, I'll allow you guys to go ahead and do a quick self-introduction and then our introduction for NACSA for the entire board.
All right, great. And is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen? I have some slides for us.
Yes. And then just
All
so
right.
you know, Gina, we also put it in the agenda packet so people can also pull them up on their computer if they want to, if they need it to be bigger or printed it up. I have mine on a tablet right in front of me, so we're good.
Excellent. All right. I think you all can see that at this point. So yeah, thanks for having us. I first connected with Trish a couple years ago, and then we got to reconnect recently, which is when I met Kathy. So it's great to see you both again, and it's great to meet the rest of you. Thanks for having us. This is our agenda, so we'll start with our introductions and then move on to an overview of NACSA, and then turn it over to Jay, and he's going to spend some time on the new school application portion. We'll share some information about upcoming events, and then we'll have time for questions. Jay, do you want to go ahead and start us off with the introductions?
Sure. Hey, everybody, it's great to be here. My name is Jay Whalen. I'm the Director of Authorizer and School Quality at NACSA. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, but former authorizer, and I work mostly on our authorizer learning and development team. So I do a lot of our cohort work, supporting authorizers, developing resources as one sort of part of the job, and the other part around school quality. So performance frameworks and measuring school quality and things like that.
Thanks. And I'm Gina Post. I'm NACSA's Director of Fundraising and Business Development. Prior to joining NACSA, I was a teacher, administrator, and then I was on the staff of a state authorizing commission for several years. At NACSA, I lead our membership program and work on our consulting team with Elisa. Elisa, you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hello. Thank you for having us today. Elisa Westifer. I'm NACSA's Chief Development and Business Officer. Been with NACSA for about 10 years. And so I lead both our work with our philanthropic partners, as well as as you'll hear, we have a kind of a robust consulting practice with authorizers across the country, working on a variety of projects. I'm located just outside Chicago. And in what now seems like a former life, I used to practice law for quite a number of years in both the areas of education and commercial real estate, which is an odd combo and a story for another day. But thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Elisa. All right, so who is NACSA? Our mission is NACSA advances and strengthens the ideas and practices of authorizing so students and communities, especially those who are historically under-resourced, thrive. We believe access, autonomy, and accountability are the keys to providing better public schools to more children. On this slide, we've highlighted NACSA's principles and standards for quality authorizing. This document was initially developed in 2004 and then was revised recently in 2023. It's recognized as the leading framework for national best practice, and it's been written explicitly into half a dozen state charter school laws and implicitly into many others. NACSA supports the effective implementation of these principles and standards through services to authorizing leadership and staff, policy guidance to state policymakers, and professional development programs that focus on leadership and talent development. As you're a new authorizing body, getting started, I highly recommend spending time with this document if you haven't already done so. I'll drop a link to the principles and standards in the chat now, so you have that, and I'll of course share. Or is there not a chat? Okay, I don't see it. So what I can do is I'll just make sure that you have all the links afterwards. Kathy, does that work? Or Trish?
Yes, that works. And also Kathy did share links with us ahead of time when she sent out our agenda packets, but we will 100% keep track of everything and make sure everyone gets those links. Thanks.
All right, you are really on top of things. Thanks. All right, so why authorizing? Great charter schools don't just happen. They're created through smart collaboration between charter operators and charter authorizers. So NACSA focuses on the authorizers. That's you, the legal entity that decides who can start a new charter school, sets academic and operational expectations, and oversees school performance. And what are authorizers responsible for? You're getting a real taste of this. I know you've been doing a lot of work already. Authorizers have a lot of responsibility: maintaining high standards, upholding autonomy, and protecting public interest. How does NACSA strengthen authorizing? Authorizing is the quality control function of the charter school model, and when done well, it opens doors for children and protects the public's interest. Every charter school in the country has an authorizer. NACSA can impact the entire charter community. We partner with and support authorizers through training, practice and policy development, system building and refinement, as well as evaluation. NACSA membership. So another way NACSA is able to support authorizers is through our membership program. And that includes a bunch of benefits, including discounts to programming. So that includes our annual leadership conference, our Authorizing 101 program. I'll talk about both of those a little bit later. We also provide members with direct access to our experts with a special email address that members get so they can have a direct line to us if there's just like a random question or you're looking for a resource. We have a member newsletter in addition to our regular newsletter, and that comes out in advance of the other newsletter, and it includes special features, opportunities, and so you get first grab it if there's opportunities to participate in focus groups or anything like that. From time to time, we have special partnerships that provide access to other things like special webinars. Membership also includes, we have a job board, and so there are additional perks with that for membership. So we would also promote your openings on our socials. We also provide you with like a digital emblem that you can put on your website, proud member of NACSA. You can use that on any other materials you'd like. And so we share that in a couple formats. Those are some of the benefits. It's an ever-changing program that I have the honor of overseeing. So if you do have questions about that, you can reach out to me. And authorize. Authorize has been around for several years now, and again, this continues to grow too. It's the only learning portal dedicated to authorizer learning and development on a national level. It contains a collection of over 75 resources, templates, guides, toolkits, reports. One of my favorite things on it is the online learning modules. Those are designed to inform and elevate the work of authorizing. So you can get right in there and create your own account. And you just do that by navigating to this site here and clicking sign up. That's free. You can join at any time and start poking around and looking at all the resources that are in there. I had initially hoped that we'd walk you through a little bit of that so you could see how robust that is, but just because of time and you have a full meeting here, we're not going to go in and get into the nitty-gritty of that, but I encourage you to take a look. And if you want support or you want me to give you a tour, for sure, just reach out and I can spend some time in there with you.
Gina,
And
I have a question real quickly. So could you just give us like a couple quick examples of like what you might find in there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's, in addition to all the resources, there are also discussion forums. So if you wanted to, crowdsource some information, you could put something in there. It's kind of like a discussion board, but we have resources in there that are, research papers. We have our resources like the new school application, our special ed toolkit from several years ago. Our quality practice project was a research paper that was done 2018 maybe, that lives in there. Templates for things like reports or visits. A whole host of things. Jay or Lisa, if you have anything on the top of your head that you think would be a great example, feel free to jump in there.
I would just note that NACSA has a body, what we call our core resources. So those are going to be resources, templates, and guidance documents that walk you through the entire charter school life cycle. So everything from the new school application to pre-opening, we have a guide to performance frameworks. I could kind of tick around the circle in terms of the charter life cycle, and all of those things live in various forms. And sometimes we have examples from other authorizers as well that live on that website. So there's a plethora of information there.
Okay, great. Kathy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add, so since Gina and Jay introduced this to us maybe a few weeks ago, I have been in there and I could still be in there. There are so many resources. It's phenomenal. And as we're working to build out our new application cycle also, I mean, you have interview questions in there, interview scenarios, I mean, just very practical tools in addition to like the bigger policy things like you mentioned with, special education and things like that, that are all super relevant to what we're doing. So I could, spend a lot more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you were able to get in there, Kathy.
Just to clarify, it sounds like by going through and looking at these resources that it's really giving ideas of model policy. Is that correct? You kind of expect that authorizers would start developing the policy at their state level or within their agency level to have best practices.
It's right. The resources in there would support you as an authorizer in building out your processes, your resources based on best practices that have been identified nationally.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. The one other thing that I haven't mentioned again. Wow. Is those modules, those learning modules. And so those cover a wide array, but like we have authorizing 101 type stuff in there and through other areas. And so those are just learning modules that you can go through at your own pace. Some of them have like questions for you to ponder after a certain section. But those are nice because you can access them whenever you want to, and they're right there for you to log in anytime you need to, go back and refer to them as needed.
One thing I just want to note there, NACSA's philosophy is really, we understand, looking at authorizers across the country, Some have large staff, some have a fair amount of resources they can bring to the table, others don't. So in one instance, an authorizer may go in there, download some tool or template, and be able to, take their charter school law, understand their local context, and have a starting point, right? To take something and then make it work for their office. In another case, an authorizer may have some more resources where they can work with somebody to help them develop some of those things. So we really want to provide as much access as we can, understanding that authorizers are coming to this work in many different places and with different capacity and resources available.
Thank you. I also want to mention to the commission that while of course we have, a professional team leader and we're relying on her to do most of this, that as policy is brought forward to the commission, like something doesn't feel right to you, where you're like, this could be better, or this is making me uncomfortable because of this or that, going to this resource here and reading through different policy suggestions that are known as best practices can really help the individual sort of figure out like, oh, this is what I think should change. Like, this is what I meant, and then give suggestions in order to adjust our policy as well. We very much, do commission members have to go here and do all of this? No, but the more engaged we are, the better job we're going to do for the state of Montana when it comes to authorizing. So just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
All right, great. Elisa, do you want to start us off on the next section here?
Sure. As Gina mentioned, NACSA has kind of a robust history of working directly in the fields with authorizers. So we are, I would say, quite unique in that we develop a lot of core resources that is for the entire field. We spend a lot of time disseminating those resources in the field and through our annual conference that we'll get to in just a few minutes. And even our work with rethinking the new school application that Jay will be speaking about here in a few minutes. That's kind of an example of kind of the general work what we're doing for the field. In addition to that, we also work directly with authorizers on what I call customized projects. And those projects really scan kind of the whole charter school life cycle. And we've been doing this work since we were, founded about 25 years ago. I've been with NACSA kind of doing this work for a little over 10 years now. And the one thing that I always try to elevate is our orientation to quality. We don't have a let the flowers bloom mentality. We are really focused on charter schools as a vehicle to bring more high quality options for students and families. And so that really underpins all our work. And so again, we kind of work with authorizers on developing, different customized policies, systems, and structures. And we're always very keyed into, there are some things, right? Our principles. And so if I would give one thing for you all to do, it would be to spend time with our document, the principles and standards for quality authorizing. So there's really these core principles that are the foundation for all of our work. And then we take those core principles and we apply them in a variety of places across the country. And we understand that every place is a little bit different. Your local context is different. So we may have a really strong guidance document out there, and parts of it may work for you and parts of it may not. And so that's really what our customized, like the feel of our customized work. So this slide just has different examples of what that looks like. We may work with an authorizer on creating a toolkit or handbook that's really kind of sets out those core processes and documents that they need to, run a good application process, to monitor their schools effectively, to intervene when necessary. And then there's some areas where we dive deeper. So that's, new school application, ready to open, performance frameworks. Those are really the cornerstone of so much of an authorizer's work. What are those expectations you're setting for a school academically, financially, organizationally? And so you can kind of read through the list. We offer a variety of services, and they're really focused on what do you need as an authorizer right now to strengthen your practices in service of quality schools, students, and families. Okay, Gina, next slide. Thank you. This is just an example. I would say over the course, I would say maybe the last 10 years or so, we've probably worked in almost every state that has a charter school law. But this is just an example of kind of our geographic scope of our work right now. The blue states are some current clients we're working with. The green states are some recent clients. In all cases, we're working specifically with authorizers or state departments of education on improving and strengthening authorizing in given places. And just giving, this is Gina is leading the work in Wyoming, so I'll turn it to Gina. We're going to give you just a flavor of a few of the projects we're working on right now.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, we're just going to highlight a couple of the multi-year clients we've been working with, so you have a taste of some of those scopes of services Elisa was just talking about. So I'll start off with the Wyoming Charter School Authorizing Board. We started working with the WCSAB about a year and a half ago. The board's a little unique in that there was another state agency that had approved the opening of 2 new charter schools, and then additional legislation sort of created the WCSAB, and so they kind of came into this task as an authorizer, having to catch up with new schools that were already open and in their portfolio underway when they were established. So I want to tell you a little bit about that support that we provided with them. Because they're a new authorizing board, we found it was important for them to have a mission to ground their work. So we organized and facilitated with board members and staff to identify and codify this unified mission and vision. We were able to support that task by providing materials in advance. So before the convening, they could take a look at some samples of other authorizing missions and vision to kind of see where they felt they might land. And we went through that process and did develop that mission and vision to guide their work. We also manage the WCSAB's first charter school application cycle. So while they already have a couple schools, they were running their first application cycle as an authorizer. So that included training the board and staff on the new school application process, conducting an application reviewer training. And then we supported through that cycle. So it was the application reviews, capacity interviews, public hearings, recommendation reports, and then just board meeting support in general throughout that process. And then we were able to develop resources and protocols that could continue to guide them through that process in future cycles. So like Elisa was talking, kind of like this handbook, all these resources that can be used year after year and, you know, adjusted and improved as time goes on, but they have a collection of resources. And that ultimately did result in the approval of a new school to open next year. So that was exciting. And we also have provided comprehensive support to the WCSAB through supporting their new director. So we had a series of orientations and workshops and coaching. We designed and facilitated the Emerging Leaders in Authorizing workshop for the board and staff. We continue to hold regular strategy meetings with the executive director and the Department of Education's liaison to the board. We led working sessions tailored to the ED's needs, and that included the delivery of targeted trainings, including one that was an overview of authorizing for school leaders. So the school leaders who already we're in these established schools and we're becoming now authorized by the WCSAB. We're on the same page as the authorizer. So you have your operators and your authorizers all on the same page here as they're going to be working together moving forward. And let's see. Lisa, you want to talk about TEA?
Sure, and I'll just run through a couple examples pretty quickly, and then again, if you have any questions or wanted to discuss anything further, we can. Another example, we've worked with Texas Education Agency for the past 5 or so years. Texas is interesting where Texas Education Agency, as a state agency, actually oversees the vast majority of charter schools in the state, like 400 plus. So very large portfolio, but about 5 years or so ago, they passed legislation that was really incentivizing districts to do more of this work and a little bit in the local control aspect. And so we helped them kind of develop a leadership academy for staff members and leaders from these school districts throughout Texas that were wanting to do more of this work. So since 2019, I think we've had about 90 some participants in about 40 school districts. And in that case, we're leading them through a whole professional development series that's focused on the core tenets of quality charter school authorizing and helping them understand the practical aspects as well. So always balancing kind of that principles and the why with how we then do the work and how you approach the work from a quality perspective. We created a corresponding handbook for all the districts to kind of have that comprehensive guide. There's no need. There's a lot of this work. Every place is different, but a lot of this work is already, there's so many different examples. You should never be starting from scratch. And that's something to take away too. There's always something you can get from other authorizers and adjust it for your context. And then Gina, next slide. And the last one we wanted to highlight is our work ongoing with the Louisiana Department of Education. And that is also kind of focused on working with many authorizers in the state and bringing them together. In many cases, these are, smaller districts that may have a handful of charter schools, so they may not have the ability to devote 2 or 3 full-time FTEs to this work. And so how are we thinking about equipping those individuals and providing them with resources and the knowledge base to take these practices and apply them in their different contexts? So it's a combination of in-person and virtual trainings along with resource development. But the types of projects we do really kind of span the full spectrum from we're just getting up and running to we really want to refine and hone and create kind of some authorizing 2.0 policies and practices.
All right, and here are just some testimonials that highlight what our clients appreciate: our expertise in charter school authorizing, our commitment to accountability and best practices, our ability to strengthen the oversight process, our strong teams and knowledgeable people, and our technical assistance are all captured in just those 3 testimonials. So we're going to transition here in just a second. If you're interested in learning more about these things that Elisa and I have just shared, of course, reach out and we can talk further or provide more detail. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jay to do his bit. Jay, do you want me to screen share or would you like to screen share?
If you don't mind keeping it up, there's not too many slides to go through.
All right.
Well, cool. I'm super excited to talk about the new school application. I could talk about this all day, but I promise to keep us on time and make sure we get out of here. But this is also a really exciting time to talk about the new school application. So was really excited when Kathy reached out and invited us to come and speak to you all. You couldn't see me cheering in the last section when you were talking about, doing a practice round, and really like that type of intentionality and that type of planning doesn't happen everywhere. So you all are going to be set up in a really good way for when applications do start coming in to do this really well. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about some of the recent shifts that we've made in our new updated guidance that we released early this year. So you all are kind of really at the forefront of some of this new work. But stop me at any time if you have questions, because we'll move through some of this stuff kind of quickly, but always happy to continue the conversation. So let's talk a little bit about why the new school application matters. I don't think this is anything new for you all, but we know that communities need more excellent public schools. And the new charter application is sort of the beginning of that process. We want to have a really robust and comprehensive and thorough process to make sure that proposed schools can launch and sustain and deliver on their mission and deliver for kids in the communities. And so the new school application process is very complex. There's a lot of different parts. There's a lot of moving pieces. But the complexity of that process has a direct impact on who applies and what type of applications are received, and then ultimately what kind of applications can get approved. And so the goal of some of the updates in our process and the new school application process broadly is how can we remove barriers so that the process is rigorous, but it's the right kind of hard. It's asking the right kind of questions, and we're getting the right kind of information on the front end to make informed decisions about what applications should be approved and what applications should be denied that need to be reworked and could come back in the future. And so we have been working for, about 4 years now. And Gina, if you want to go to the next slide on ways to update the new school application. So we've made some big changes. We've done focus groups. We had a cohort that dug into the recommendations that came out of that research in those focus groups for about 1.5 years to test out some different things, learn about it, and figure out what does it look like in practice and how do we implement that into our guidance. And so if you're familiar with our old guidance, it's been around for a while. And what you may have noticed is over time, the application has grown bigger and bigger and bigger. More requirements, more questions, more things get added to the written application, right? We open schools, things go wrong. There's a natural inclination to want to figure out earlier on how to prevent that. And that's a good mindset to have. The challenge is a lot of those questions get dumped in the new school application because that's the first sort of touch point that you have with an applicant to understand what the school is going to be. And so what we've seen is applications have become kind of a sea of paperwork, right? They can stretch into the hundreds, even thousands of pages when you start to think about the appendices and attachments and all the evidence that can get put into an application. And it's become more of a sort of checklist of things to respond to rather than a process for a team to demonstrate the plan that they have and their capacity to implement that plan. And so what that means is the new school application process and the sector more broadly has become a little more bureaucratic, a little more rigid, and a little bit less innovative because the process tends to box in what can get through a new school application process. So when we think about new and different types of schooling, new ways to organize learning, different types of people coming into charter schooling to open schools, that's where we think about how do we remove some of those barriers and broaden the pool of the types of people and the types of schools that can open and be available for students and communities. You all are probably aware that, the new school application has been around for a while. Charter schools have been around for a while. So there's examples of approved applications that are out there that people can look at. There are consultants that are writing applications. We are moving very quickly to an age where AI is going to be able to write applications. And so our big focus in the changes to the application now are to focus on the people behind the application, right? Like what's on paper is important, but that's only a part of the process because people are the ones that are going to implement the plan. And so how do we lean into the capacities of the founding team to say they have a really good plan on paper and we have a ton of confidence that they're going to be able to do what they said. So how do we change the new school application? Again, we went through a whole long learning process over the last few years, and this is sort of some of the high-level changes that have been made, and we'll dig into a little bit. We'll dig into these a little bit more in a second. But we really focused on the elements that authorizers need the most at this stage. Like, what is right for the new school application, and what could be either eliminated entirely or move to a different part of the process, like the ready to open process, right? We think about that all broadly as sort of the new school application, ready to open. You sort of work into launching a school, and that entire process can be, a couple years long. And when you apply, you might be applying a year and a half, 2 years in advance of a school actually opening. We wanted to focus on what do we need right now. And we know it can't be an exhaustive list of questions, right? So we reduced the number of questions by more than 50% in the new application guidance that we released earlier this year. Again, we moved many of those attachments to the ready to open process, so they're not just exploding the new school application with paperwork. And we outlined multiple ways to have touch points and assess the founding team's capacities outside of just the written application. Trish, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Jay. So one of the things that's coming to mind as I listen about the new application is I'm wondering if in making this switch over the last few years, if any authorizers that you guys know of have had to go back to the legislature in order to adapt their laws to accommodate this new application, or if generally they're just able to kind of fold it into their existing law.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. One, we know that state law is going to make some of the changes more difficult, particularly state laws that have things explicitly outlined in statute that like need to be in an application, right? It may not say exactly what the question is, but one example that we took out of this application and moved to the ready to open process is like a full curriculum scope and sequence. Most schools don't have that 2 years in advance. That's gonna adapt. It's gonna change. Like we think that is more appropriate in the ready to open process. Some state laws require that as part of the application. And so one of the things that we've talked about and we've thought about a lot is, there's probably going to need to be some sort of state policy addendum or guidance that goes along with this application guidance to support changes to law that are going to need to be made. And we know that that's a reality in a lot of places. The other piece of that is some of the process pieces of where you can lean into people more, where you can think about the additional touch points and the flexibility that you have to, we're going to talk about the touch points in a second, but to have information sessions, have a pitch meeting, get in front of these people, how you conduct capacity interviews and do, we call them challenge scenarios, but performance tasks, and how you really adjust different parts of the process that may not be as prescriptive in state law. And so there are different ways to think about it. Another example is a lot of places ask for, answer this question about, tell us your plan for addressing conflict of interest in code of ethics, and give us the policy for that, right? So there's some flexibility, like, do you need both of those in the application? And is there flexibility if state law requires that? Do you have to ask for it both ways, right? So there is flexibility, but we do know that there's going to need to be some guidance, and states are going to need some support in, down the line, what are the legislative changes that might allow them to more heavily lean into some of the guidance that we put forward.
Right. Kathy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I just want to elaborate because this is exactly where we are right now, right? Like we have a NACSA law, we have specific components that are required in the law that we can't change at this point, but what we can do is, and kind of where our thinking is, so like in the application process, we do have a full budget, we do have a full curriculum scope and sequence, right? But what we're looking at is, instead of rating that maybe as like meets or exceeds, maybe we just put yes or no, it was submitted. And then as Jay's talking about, we further develop that in the ready to open, or the year zero as we're calling it, process. And then in addition, like our law doesn't request a notice of intent. It doesn't mention a pitch meeting, and these are new additions. So the way we're thinking is maybe applicants could be highly encouraged to submit a notice of intent, highly encouraged to attend a pitch meeting. So, like you said, we can't change the law at this point, but there are some ways that we could, possibly incorporate that if members are interested, by encouraging or just, maybe marking a yes or no and then further developing those pieces later.
And just one other note on that, as a former practicing attorney, I often talk with authorizers and, of course, defer to your local counsel. But in my opinion, if something isn't prohibited in your law, then you have the flexibility to do it. So while your process may have certain things that it needs to do, if it's silent on something, and again, I haven't read the ins and outs of your law, then you should likely have the flexibility as kind of the entity that's been, given this responsibility for the oversight of charter schools to add some of those own things into the mix. So there's always sometimes some creative ways you can look at, because often a state charter school law is going to be relatively high level of the types of things, right, that need to be included, how you go about it. And Kathy, I think that was a great example in terms of the one you gave of something that may be submitted, but maybe you're not going to spend a lot of time kind of really drilling down at the new school application time. That's a great example of ways to kind of balance what your law requires and what you feel like is in the best interest, and in terms of carrying out your responsibilities as an authorizer.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and when you get into the new guidance, there is a specific section on like how to start, and I think it's 6, maybe 7. Like there are specific examples of and steps that you could start taking, and some of those, have nothing to do with the state law, and there are ways to kind of start adjusting and adapting the process right now. So a couple of the high levels, we put out this set of recommendations on rethinking the new school application, and then those sort of work their way into the new guidance. And there's a few that really rose to the top that are really prominent in the new guidance. And the first we've talked about a little already is shifting rigor from paper to people, right? The written application is important. There are going to be documents and plans that need to be submitted. But this is also the perfect time to lean into the founding team. What are the capacities of the people that are going to implement this? What are their strengths? Can they identify the gaps that they have? What are the core sort of knowledge, skills, and abilities that are important to launching and sustaining a school? And how do we lean into those in multiple touch points, in capacity interviews, in performance tasks to understand this team's capacity and their ability to launch a school? So sort of one of the companion resources to the new school application guidance is sort of a year and a half ago at this point, we put out the capacities of founding teams, which lists 9 capacities and ways to look for those in the written application, in capacity interviews, in additional touch points, things like strategic focus on the mission, commitment to community, relationship with success and failure. So those really important people skills that may not show up all the time in a written application, and how you can find those when you engage with the team. The next recommendation that showed up, and again, we've talked about this a little bit already, is aligning the application process to how new schools actually develop, right? So this is that idea of moving things out of the written application that aren't right at this time. So some of that meant taking things out that just completely eliminating them because we don't need them. And some of that meant moving things to a different part of the process. So we've moved a lot of things to the ready to open process, and this new guidance does rely on a pretty robust ready to open process, where you're working directly with the founding team. They're submitting documents, you're reviewing things, and you're signing off as they kind of ramp up and get ready for the launch of that school. And some things were sort of just eliminated entirely, right? One of the things that we eliminated was we used to ask for, job descriptions and hiring plans. And one of the things that when we talk about the autonomy of schools, hiring and personnel is something that schools really have a lot of autonomy over. And I've reviewed plenty of charter applications in my life, and I was not denying anyone for the job descriptions that they gave me for the school leader or for an 8th grade ELA teacher, right? Those are things that, again, if you have trust in the founding team's capacity and they have experience in hiring and building teams and coaching and development, you don't necessarily need some of those more minutia type hiring documents and recruitment plans. You can talk to them about that and get a sense of their plans without them having to submit all this extra paperwork. The third recommendation was to better assess need and demand. We used to have questions about obviously assessing need and demand for a school, because those are really important to determine the sustainability of a school. But we really elevated it in this new guidance and the new sample application, right? So there is a separate section now that is community and coalitions and how you're engaging the community, the types of events, the types of coalitions that you're building, who supports you, who doesn't, and what is your approach and your messaging to those who don't. There's also a section for assessing community need, demand, opportunities, and we give a obviously not exhaustive, but a pretty comprehensive list of what are the types of evidence that you could be seeking. There's not one type of evidence that's going to tell you all the need or demand for a specific school, but we provide a range of different evidence bases that could be collected for that type of thing. And so we really elevated this, and we really elevated, again, the team's commitment to the community, their connection to the community, and how they're engaging different community members and really assessing the viability of this school for who's going to come and who's going to like thrive at this school. And then the last one is nothing new, but something that's super important, which is doubling down on what works. And so strengthening and reinforcing established quality authorizing practices. We know that having strong, trained expert review teams of internal external reviewers for charter applications is a best practice. That's what works. And you need that breadth of expertise when you're reviewing applications. So that's still there. Publishing an RFP with clear criteria for success, outlining your priorities as an authorizer, communicating deadlines, timelines, the process to applicants. Those are really important. We know that works. That's all here. And what you'll see, we're going to talk about the touch points next, but what you'll see when you get into the guidance, we have a lot of different touch points, a lot of different tools that go along with this guidance. And we have, one pagers around how to create strong review teams. We have one pagers around capacity interviews and templates for statements of assurance and notices of intent. And there's a lot of resources that go along with that. And so the last thing I want to touch on really quickly is our approach to the timeline itself and the touch points. And this feels like a lot, right? There's 15 touch points that are outlined in the new application guidance. Some of it sounds new, some of it sounds very familiar and is some things that have been around for a while. We just haven't necessarily sort of itemized it and delineated it in the same way. But as we've talked to authorizers over the past couple of years and really over the past 6 months, most of them are doing 2/3 of these already. They're doing 10, 11, 12, sometimes even 13 or 14 of these. They just didn't consider them necessarily different touch points. So, your request for proposals is the start. Information and orientation sessions to let applicants know, what the process is going to look like, what the timelines are, what they can expect, when they can expect it, and to give applicants an opportunity to ask questions of you as an authorizer, get to know you, and really start building that relationship. The notice of intent, we've talked about that already a little bit. It's not in the law in Montana, but the notice of intent is a way to start gathering information, about the founding team, about the mission, about their connection to the community. That also helps you as an authorizer say, we've got a Montessori model that's about to be proposed. We need to go out and start thinking about who are the Montessori experts that we can get on a review panel to look at this school, right? It allows you to identify some of that expertise in the field that's going to make your process even more comprehensive and rigorous, because you're going to have people that know that model and can thoughtfully and critically assess an application. Pitch meeting is something that's new, right? So that might seem, you may not have heard that before, or a one-on-one session. Some folks have been doing this in the field under different names. Some people are starting it now. The idea here is that, again, the applicant team comes before you for a short meeting to tell you, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is what our mission is. This is the work we've done with the community. And again, to start building a relationship with the authorizer, for you to start asking some questions about the model, about the team, for the applicant to start asking questions of you, and to sort of start that assessment of the founding team, right? What are the capacities that they're bringing to the table? Who are the people behind this? And just the idea here is to increase the touch points, increase the connection and communication between the authorizer and the applicant team. So you can really get to know the founding team and really lean into people. And one of the anecdotes that we've heard, and I know we're coming up on time, so I'll kind of breeze through this, but one of the anecdotes we've heard from another state is this also allows an applicant team to start to hear questions from the authorizer and start to think to themselves like, maybe we're not quite ready at this point. And they have sort of self-selected to say, we need some more time to develop our proposal more fully. And we're going to come back in a year, which has freed up some capacity from the authorizer to not have to review that application this year because the applicant team has started to have those conversations and realized we need more time and we're going to pause and come back later. And so it's really an opportunity to start leaning into people, which is really important. The application, right? These remedy periods, completion checks, due diligence, requests for clarifications. Again, that's sort of this written documentation, gathering evidence sort of throughout the process. Challenge scenarios is, again, something that's a little bit new. You're probably familiar with something like performance tasks. It's not much different than that. You could do them separately, right? You could have people record videos. You can have them submit answers to challenge scenarios. You could include those in a capacity interview. And our guidance gives you model criteria for each section. It gives you sample questions for the written application. It gives you sample questions, sample challenge scenarios for a capacity interview. Like the guidance has a ton of resources on what to ask and how to start to get some of this evidence and get some of this information from the team. And then whatever opportunities you have to see the founding team in action, go to a board meeting, go to a community meeting, see how they're engaging with the community and see how they're working together as a board. Some states require public hearings, others don't, but the more opportunities you have to get in front of the team, to see them in action, to see their capacities, the better. An update memorandum, again, something new. We consider this optional, but you go through a charter application process and that can take, up to 6 months. It could take even more and things change over time, right? So giving the applicant team the ability to come forward before a decision is made and say, here's what we've done in the last 6 months. We've added these members to our board to increase capacity here. We've increased our demand by here's some additional evidence that we have around how we're gathering community input. Here's what's changed in our application because of what we've learned from the community. Like all that type of information just creates a better body of evidence to then ultimately make a recommendation and decision based on everything that you've gathered over the course of the process. Trish.
Thank you, Jay. First up, I want to say I love this. I just think that this is really great and a very good, thorough way of thinking about approaching the application process. I have a question. It might be for Elisa. I'm wondering how, okay, so our law, and I'm sure many laws say this, says that the commission has to publish the criteria that will be used for making their decision in approving an application. So I'm wondering legally, how these 15 points that are added to the new application are being integrated into action for authorizers that have that in the law. Is this something that as an authorizer, you need to kind of create a rating rubric, or you have to somehow disclose to people ahead of time, all of this matters, or you know what I mean? Are we adding more requirements or are these suggested?
And Jay, feel free to chime in here. 2 things I would note. First, typically, right, any request for proposals will include what the evaluative criteria are. And now these are a lot of different touch points that are listed, but the information you're gathering should be going to criteria, to something you're looking for, right? So there may be, the process may look a little bit different, but ultimately it should funnel back to certain things you are looking for from that founding team in the written application, etc. So in that sense, I would say the evaluative criteria and the process, right, should be aligned in the sense that whatever is in the process, it's kind of funneling up into certain things you are looking for. And then I would note that, yes, in terms of the RFP, in terms of a process, this right now feels like a little overwhelming, right? These 15 things. But as Jay said, some of these things you're already doing. Some of these things, don't necessarily have to be listed how they are listed, but you would want something in your RFP that outlines generally the process, and that you will be engaging with the applicants in a variety of touch points, such as to gather some of the information that'll help you make the ultimate decision. And the only other thing I would note is, authorizers are going to take this information in. There's going to be things that they think, oh yeah, this works for us. There's going to be other parts of it that you're like, yeah, no, this doesn't work for us. Maybe it's right now because of your law, or just maybe it just doesn't work for us for certain reasons. So this isn't guidance that's meant to, you have to take it in its entirety. You can take pieces of this and test them out, too, over time.
Great. Jay, did you want to add to that?
And there's another hand too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gina, if I could share really quickly, Gina, I don't really have anything to add to what Elisa was saying, but I do just want to, I'll just put up the sample evaluation rubric that we include in the guidance as another tool. So this is sort of what Elisa was speaking to, that like, when you evaluate the written application, where do you see strengths and weaknesses aligned to the criteria? In the additional touch points, either a capacity interview, the pitch meeting, right? Like you're documenting evidence throughout the process aligned to the criteria that you would establish in the RFP sort of in the beginning of this process. So it wouldn't necessarily be like, new requirements. You're going to set out what the criteria for success are, and you're just going to gather information throughout all these touch points as you go through the process.
That is so helpful to see, Jay. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Chip.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is maybe a stupid one, but it's basically, at what point, I really like the focus on quality and people, because I think starting out, that's going to be really important to us as a new organization, if you will. And my question is, at what point would you bring the school leader into this process if you had, and would the school leader, I know Jay talked about, for example, experience in hiring people. If you had an experienced school leader, would that person be brought into the founding board process and the application process earlier? It seems like that would be a benefit.
Yeah, I think it would. And right, like that really becomes sort of on the applicant team, right? We in a capacity interview, we would certainly welcome, if they've hired a school leader, if they have someone on board, that person would certainly be welcome to participate in these touch points, to participate in the capacity interview. Sometimes, that person isn't on so early, but if they are, right, that would be on the applicant team to say like, and this is the person we're going to have, like, they're an expert in XYZ. They have this type of experience. And so when we bring our founding team in front of you to demonstrate how we're prepared to launch this school, like, here's our school leader. We've already picked this person, and they should be participating in a bunch of those different touch points to, again, demonstrate the capacity that they have and that they have on board. So I would say as soon as that person's on board, the applicant team should be bringing that person forward. And you as an authorizer should certainly, invite that person to attend these different touch points if they're identified.
And just realistically, right, if you back up to when they're actually applying versus when the school opens, sometimes they won't have that school leader in place. But then if they don't, one area that you are going to be digging into is, how is this founding board or whatever the applicant team they're proposing, how are they going to find this person, right? And your context better than I do. I have no idea about your pipeline of school leaders in Montana, but if you're nervous about that and that is an issue, that's going to be an area you're going to want to dig deeper into. So if you do approve this school and they don't have one in place yet, you're going to feel confident that they've thought through what they should be thinking through to have a realistic plan to do so. And then some of that connects into you're ready to open. If they don't have one in place, there may be an aspect of that in your ready to open in terms of when they should realistically have one.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking at the time. We're coming up to an hour. Just want to, say, are there any questions from the commission members that they have about NACSA, and or are there any final concluding remarks that you guys would like to make as presenters?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions and continue the conversation. There's a ton ton in the guidance to explore, and we've sent some links to Kathy, and I know she's probably shared those already. So happy to answer any questions, and I know Gina was going to do a bit of a plug for NaxaCon and some other stuff
great.
to close us
Chip,
out.
is your hand up anew, or is that just not lowered from last time? I'm sorry, I lost track. There we go.
I apologize. I forgot to lower it.
No worries. No worries. Okay,
Thanks.
Gina, go ahead.
Yeah, just as we're wrapping up here, I know we mentioned this earlier, but I want to highlight it again. NaxaCon, that's our annual leadership conference. I know Kathy already registered. It will be held in Houston this year, October 20th through 23rd. We usually have about 500 attendees. Most of those are authorizer boards, authorizing staff, and then we also have attendees from authorizer support organizations, vendors, other stakeholders. Personally, this will be my 11th NACSA conference. I've only been with NACSA for 3 years, but as an authorizer, I found it super useful. So, just can't emphasize enough how helpful that would be, especially where you're getting yourselves going. The networking just can't be beat. There's just so many other people to connect with and learn from. And before I go on to authorizing 101, Kathy, you want to ask a question here?
I just want to make a plug. So far, I'm the only one scheduled to attend. We do have funds for anyone else who would and can make time for this. And if you can't, please send me any questions that you want me to bring to the conference, or maybe sessions or a lens that I could be looking out for that might help us further our work.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, let's go ahead and call this to a close. We will move on to our break. And thank you so much, Elisa and Jay and Gina. We really, really appreciate this information. It was helpful to, all of the chartering ecosystem is so new to us. So it's really helpful to be able to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together and to know what resources are out there to help us as well as the founding boards. So thank you very much. We hope to talk to you guys again. And we're going to go into a quick break. It is 11:12 right now. Does 10 minutes feel like that's okay for everyone? Yeah. Okay. So let's go back. We'll come back then at 11:23. Okay.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye. Okay, we are at 11:23. Taylor, are you back with us? Aha, perfect. Okay, we need you. So going on to item 8. So I want to point out that Katie Franklin had to leave at around 10:30. She left the meeting, but there's still 4 of us. So we still have a quorum. And we're going into some business, which means we're going to get a lot of practice in using Robert's rules, because I think we have 5 items that are going to require all of our participation in order to move forward. And so I think this is probably easiest if you can. And again, Taylor, you can make your own choice there. But if you can just take your mic off, that way it'll just be more spontaneous and we can kind of move through this quickly. And then the last thing I want to say is that anytime we are, working on policy and we're voting, we're taking an official vote like we're going to now, whether we approve or deny it, either way, that policy can always be brought back to the table. All a commission member has to do is, request for it to be on the agenda, and voila, we'll make sure that we address it again. So nothing should feel final. And I wanted to say that because we are looking at 4 members here that are making some decisions. So just in general, things can be brought back to the table for discussion in business. Okay, so going to the first item that we have. Okay, so I'd like to disclose that I directed Kathy to pay for a membership to NACSA so that we would have full access to their resources, including their ongoing webinar series and open communication with their various advisors, as they described, as well as a discount to their annual conference. But after doing so, McCall advised that this should have been voted on by the full commission in a public meeting before joining. So please accept my apologies. And to rectify this mistake, I'm going to make the first motion, which is I move that the commission purchase a NACSA membership. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard a second. So it has been properly moved and seconded that the commission purchase a NACSA membership. So I want to ask quickly, is there any discussion that you guys would like to have on this?
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
How much does it cost?
That's a great question. Kathy.
It is $500 for 1 year.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, is there any discussion or from the public? Does anyone I'm not sure if we have any attendees still, participants, but you guys are attendees, welcome to make public comment before we take action.
I see no hands up.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do a voice vote. So please have your microphones on. So it has been moved that the commission purchase a NACSA membership. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed say nay. Okay, it has been approved that we will go ahead and pay for a NACSA membership and join as members. Okay, so similar to the approval needed for the NACSA membership, there is an online training called Robert's Rules Made Easy. And I'm hoping that somebody would be willing to make a motion for or against purchasing a license for the commission.
I'll make a motion. We purchase a license.
Thank you. Is there a
I'll
second?
second the motion.
Thank you, Chip. So it's been properly moved and seconded that the commission purchase a license for the Robert's Rules Made Easy. Is there any discussion? Okay, please go ahead, John.
My question is, we used to get that for free, I thought.
That is a good question. Okay, so I thought that too. But as it turned out, the access that we had was technically only, it's purchased by the executive administration. So they said it's only really available to the appointees made by the governor. So they didn't give us access to it this time. So in order to have access to it, I mean, one, people could purchase it themselves, but we felt that it would be better for the commission to purchase a license. And that way, as our commission members, you know, naturally roll over and to new people join the commission, that we would have this for them to complete. And right now that we're in Robert's rules, it just is really important that we're all very, very comfortable with it. The training is super fun. It's very easy to do. And there are like little quizzes that you can take along the way. You can do it totally asynchronously, and I highly recommend it. John.
How much does it cost?
Kathy.
So there are 3 different packages. The one that makes most sense for us is between 2 and 10 training per person, right? So between 2 and 10 people, and that's $497.
Okay, so about $500. And then looking at the future, so we have 2 new commission members right now that would use 2 of those. And then next year, we're going to have 3 positions that may switch over. So the superintendent of public instruction and both of the minority leaders will have an opportunity to either choose the member who's already sitting in that position or possibly suggest somebody new. And then the year after that, the 2 governor appointees will possibly change. So I think we'll get good use out of having access to this program. Any other discussion? How about from the public?
Seeing no hands raised.
Thank you, McCall. Okay, so going back to the motion then, the question is, should the commission purchase the Robert's Rules Made Easy license to use with our members? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is approved. The next one is, Kathy had mentioned in the director's report that the Department of Justice's Agency Legal Services Bureau has been closed. So agencies have been directed to find outside contracts for legal support. So again, in order to discuss this, we need to have a motion on the table. So would someone make a motion to open discussion about authorizing a contract for legal services?
I'll make a motion that we open discussion for a contract for legal services.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Okay, so the motion that is to we have properly moved and seconded the motion to open discussion about authorizing a contract for legal services. Okay, any discussion? All right, I'm going to go first and explain why we're discussing this, and then I'll call on you, Chip. So this is pretty similar to when the commission decided to hire an employee. And in order for the executive committee to go forward with that whole process, the commission authorized the executive committee to follow through on that whole process. And then the executive committee brought it back to the board in order to make a vote. So that's what we're doing here. What we ultimately want is we need to have legal support in order to verify that our policy that we're building out is, matches what's in Community Choice Schools Act, as well as all the other laws and rules and regulations of Montana. So we really do need to have services for a lawyer. And I may have messed up with the motion. I'm going to ask McCall for some help. McCall, do I need to have a motion that's specifically authorizing you and Kathy to make the hire for legal services?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think what you guys want to do here is to allow Kathy and I to execute a contract with a legal counsel. And the reason for doing that is that this is a little bit different than your typical like hiring or procurement. Um, you don't have to go through those regular practices. You have a couple options here. If you all wanted to, as a commission, to approve a contract, it would take you a little bit longer. It's my understanding that you might want to acquire someone a little bit quicker. You have a lot of things waiting, I think, for someone to review. So if you wanted to, what you could do is make that motion that you just suggested, which would be for Kathy and I to execute a contract, which would allow us to go through the process of sort of vetting a couple candidates potentially, and then going through the contract. We just did this with our board. They did the same thing, basically, of authorizing me to contract with some outside legal counsel, and then I signed the contract with that counsel.
Great, thank you. Chip, did you have a question or something you wanted to bring up?
No, you actually, that was my question is.
Okay, perfect. So since we are in Robert's rules and there is a motion on the table, and I said we're going to get a lot of practice, that means me too. So what I am going to do is move to amend the motion so that it reads that should the commission allow Kathy and McCall to execute a contract with a lawyer for the commission. All right.
I'll second the amendment.
Thank you, Chip. Is there any comment from anybody? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and do a voice vote on this amendment, which is, should the commission allow Kathy and McCall to execute a contract with a lawyer for the commission? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, so the amendment passes, and really it was just to clean up the motion. So we're going to now approve the motion with the amended language. Okay, so, and that amended language is specifically to allow Kathy and McCall to execute a contract with a lawyer for the commission. On the main motion, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? I forgot to take comment. Okay, so if anyone wants to interject, do it now. Okay, I think we're good. And that has been approved. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for bungling that. All right, so going into the next one. Okay, so at the last meeting, we took a look at the conflict of interest policy, and we had a fairly robust discussion about it. Kathy worked with the Institute to make some changes based on our discussion, and then she had the commission's lawyer check everything to ensure its legality and compliance with all Montana rules and laws. So the conflict of interest policy is to be embedded in the Choice Commission handbook, as everyone reviewed in today's agenda packet. So again, what I would like, which we have all reviewed. So would someone please make a motion either in favor of or in opposition to the conflict of interest policy so we can open a discussion and take action?
I'll make a motion that we approve, I guess, the conflict of interest policy as published in today's agenda.
Okay, I will second that. I'm just writing this down. Okay, so it has been properly moved and seconded that the commission approve the conflict of interest as shown in today's agenda packet. Is there any discussion about this? Did anything come to mind as you guys were reading it that you wanted to edit, make comments about, any of that? Okay, Kathy, did you want to maybe add some information about it before we take a vote?
Sure. I mean, I can basically speak to the changes that have been made. How about since our last review of this document? So there's essentially 4 parts to it. The first you see on page 1 and halfway through page 2. So that's Montana statute of the conflict of interest that applies specifically to the commission. Then the next section near the bottom of page 2, the ethical requirements adopted by the Community Choice Schools Commission. So these are authorizer specific. So this is what I worked with the Institute with. They provided some examples of other charter authorizers and their specific instances that conflicts of interest could arise, specific to your role as a member. And then if you look at the top of page 3, these are essentially the procedures that we would follow. And again, these were developed with the National Institute based on what other authorizers are using. If a conflict does arise, people needing to recuse themselves potentially from a vote, etc. Enforcement, if anyone is found to have committed a conflict of interest. And then finally, the last piece is the annual statement. So the idea being that each of us would review this policy every year, each of you, would review this policy every year and affirm that in a public meeting.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. So we've all also taken an oath of office for the state of Montana, and that's what kind of binds us to the conflict of interest that is in statute. And so this is additive language that we feel that as a statewide authorizer, we need to have higher standards. And so we've added this language in order to do that. So I'm very much in support of it, and I urge everyone to vote for it as it is, knowing that should more things come up and we want to add to this, we can always do that. And then in response to the annual statement, I just want to say that's something we'll do traditionally in December when we also vote on officers. So annually, that's when we'll integrate it into the agenda in order to make that public statement. Is there any other discussion before we take a vote? Okay. Is there any public comment? Okay.
None.
Thank you, McCall. Okay, seeing none. So going back to the motion to take the vote, it has been moved. The question is, should the, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to start again. So we're going back to the motion. We're going to take a vote. So the motion is to approve the conflict of interest as shown in today's agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, we have approved the conflict of interest as shown in today's agenda packet. And we're going to our last item of action, which is the background check. So the background check policy was also discussed at our last meeting, and just like the last item, Kathy worked on this with the Institute, the DOJ, and the Commission's lawyer. And it was included for review in today's agenda packet so we could all, wrap our heads around it. And okay, so we need a motion on the table. This time I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. So I move that we accept the background check policy as presented in today's agenda packet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So it has been properly moved and seconded that the commission accept the background check policy as presented. Is there any discussion? Chip.
I have a question, and it may not apply directly. It applies directly, but it might not be directly to the policy. So
okay.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask.
Let's give it a shot. I'll tell you if
okay. It's paragraph or number 7 at the bottom of page 1. Conviction, including conviction following a plea of nolo contender and a conviction in which sentence is suspended, deferred, or any other adjudication. That whole paragraph. Would it be appropriate, or does it need to be in this policy, or would it be appropriate, is my question, that that be published with our application process so people know if you've done this, you're automatically out, or is that not how this works?
That's a
That's
good
my
question.
question.
Okay, thank you. So this is for the commission. So for the 7 members who have been appointed by the elected officials, and this is something.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. We're on the background check. You're totally right. Okay. So going back to the background check, I don't know where my head is, you guys. I'm so sorry. I should not have taken that last break. Okay. So, yeah, I think that that's a good idea. Kathy, what do you think? I mean,
Yeah,
'cause
I agree. I mean,
it's gonna have to be read. So I only fear that if we highlight like one paragraph, then they're thinking that's the only thing that applies. But what do you think, Kathy?
well, I think this whole policy will be in the packet. So do
Well,
your due diligence or
right.
what? Yeah.
Actually, Chip, again, we haven't developed the internal policy for how this is going to be used. We know that it'll be part of the process because the law requires it. But what we've discussed in the past is that we would actually want to do this before the application is actually submitted. So again, kind of going through the process for applicants, building up to hitting that submit button, this would be on a list because it may take some time. Kathy, you can speak to this more, for the DOJ to let the commission know that everything is okay or it's not okay. And we would go from there. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, correct. So, and if I can back up just a little bit. So once our application is approved, which has been submitted to the DOJ, I don't think it's at the top of their list because they understand we don't have a need to conduct background checks immediately. But once that is approved, then we will have participate in a training. And my understanding is that the training will help outline kind of this whole procedure. But essentially, applicants need to know that once they submit their fingerprints, it's at least 15 days for the results to be submitted. So we're going to have to really back map that for the application process to ensure that, DOJ has enough time to run the background check, and then we have enough time to do our piece in reviewing it. And that's what we'll find out more with in the training. So I think there will be more details to be added to this after we have attended the training, just probably in terms of some logistics and timing.
Kathy, what did you say preceded having that meeting? We're waiting for something?
The approval of our application to be a background check or
okay, so the commission has applied to the Department of Justice in order to be an entity that can request a background check.
Correct.
For the founders.
Correct.
And once that is approved or denied, we'll figure out what to do. But presuming it's approved because the community choice school law says that this is something that we have to do, then the DOJ will provide a training for the commission. And then once we've had that training, we'll be able to kind of build our internal policy and then also the external policy for the applicants in this process of actually getting it done.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that I had all the proper nouns in there. Okay,
Yes.
Does anyone else have any discussion points or questions? Okay, well, I feel super comfortable with how far we've come in this process and feel that, there's a motion to approve it and I support doing that. Obviously, I made the motion, understanding that this is an ongoing process and it's probably going to be refined in the future, which I think is a good thing because we want it to be the best it can be. But then after using it, we might decide we need to change stuff, so again, this is going to be a work in progress always, whatever the commission is doing in general. Okay, is there any public comment about the motion?
Seeing none.
Thank you, McCall. Okay, so I will put the motion up for a vote and here we go. Okay, so I move that the commission accept the background check policy as presented in the agenda packet. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the commission has accepted the background check policy as presented. Okay, so our final item is an open discussion about the member handbook that is also in the agenda packet. It's on page 24 of 50 is where it starts. The commission can be at ease during this conversation. And Kathy, would you please lead this discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you, I will. Oh, we have a question right from the get-go.
All right, John, go for it.
I need to leave, so hopefully this, because you don't have any action items, won't wreck your quorum.
McCall, do you have some advice for us? I think we're okay. I don't know.
Yeah, Madam Chair, you're fine. Since you don't have any more action,
Okay.
to take the rest of the meeting.
Okay, thanks for hanging in there with
All
us,
right.
John. I really
Okay.
appreciate it. Okay, see you in October. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, I'm feeling like I'm so glad that we have that Robert's Rules thing now because I need to go back to a little refresher. I was like, we're going to get a lot of practice. And I'm like, yeah, I need refreshing. Okay, Kathy, take it away.
Okay, thank you. So we have developed, or I have developed in cooperation with McCall and her advice from the Board of Education's member handbook, as well as Chair Schreiber and the contents of this. Basically, what we've done is pulled together all of the important pieces that a member needs to know in order to basically onboard and then function as a member. So I'm not going to read through the table of contents, but you can see all of the items that are in there. And, you know, I don't know if we want to take comment, discussion of, and I'll let you call for that because that's probably a Robert Rules.
Okay, well, I think this is the perfect group to have here because you guys are our two newest members. So this came in the agenda packet. I'm presuming, Kathy, you didn't like hand it to them separate because it's still in draft form?
I may have sent
finalized?
a draft
Okay,
to
good.
both of them, for sure. Taylor, I'm not sure if I did send it to Chip, but let them know it was draft and yeah.
Okay,
It
so
says,
it says draft on the front, right?
it says draft.
Okay, great. So was it worthwhile for you guys? I mean, did you feel like there was something missing that you needed to know or like there was too much information maybe?
I didn't think there was anything missing. Yeah, I thought it was good.
I agree. I thought it was great. I did have one question about it, but whenever that's appropriate, I'll ask you.
Now.
Oh, okay, great. Page 19, about the open meeting. It says a meeting must be held in the impacted community. My question is, does that mean that the commission has to travel to any site where a school will be opened and hold a meeting?
Okay, hang on. I'm trying to find it. You
Yeah,
said
no
it's page
problem.
19 of the
At
actual.
2-3-111 subparagraph 2, it's on page 19 in the handbooks.
Okay, for some
So
reason.
that is the new school application policy.
Thank you. Okay,
And
that's
Madam Chair, just as background, that is the first draft of that policy that we have been working on updating.
I don't know why I'm having trouble finding this. Is it because the page numbers are like are they switching? You said it's page 19.
Okay, maybe I got the page wrong. I'm looking here, so.
If I may, I can jump in
Yes.
here.
Thank you.
Chip, I know exactly what you're talking about. He's talking about the
I'm
open
sorry.
meeting laws, the sunshine laws,
Correct.
specifically part 1, the notice and opportunity to be heard. So he's talking about page 19 of the packet.
Oh,
And so he's talking about 2-3-111 sub 2. It says when a
Perfect.
state agency other than the Board of Regents proposes to take action that directly impacts a specific community or area and a public hearing is held, the hearing must be held in an accessible facility in the impacted community or area. This doesn't actually apply, I think, Chip, in the way that you're reading it. I think the simple reading of it would suggest that if you're opening a school in Polaris, you have to go to Polaris. But that's not necessarily what it suggests. And frankly, if you read your charter law, I'm assuming it's similar to mine, that says that when you're opening a law, you have to allow for the public community to participate. Everything that we do nowadays is on Zoom. All of these meetings are allowed for the public to participate. Anyone who was on Zoom today would have been allowed to participate. I've been watching the Zoom. And so that would have been an appropriate way for them to participate. You don't need to go and physically be in that location.
Thank you.
Thank you, McCall.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Were there any other comments about this? I think it's really good, Kathy. I think you guys and McCall, you guys did a great job. And I feel like we've covered everything and that it's informative. And again, like I said earlier, we're going to have more turnover in the commission in the next year, 2 years. So thank you for getting this together. And it's something maybe even we can use to show people before they agree that they want to be a commission member. Is this something that's posted on the BPE webpage by any chance? Or should we? What do you think? What do you guys think?
It's not posted yet because it's in draft, but
Right.
do you have yours posted, the BPE's posted, McCall? We should follow suit.
Yeah, we do. Ours is a little out of date right now just because we will update all of our documents at our September board meeting. So there's some new things we need to plug in, but ours is all on our board members page. You can see the handbook there. We'll plug yours in wherever you want us to put it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to put it there because, again, people who are going to the webpage to want to learn more about choice schools and or the commission would see that and it might intrigue them and they might want to, you know, pursue becoming a member or something. I mean, it would be great. So I think it's good information to have out there. Okay. All right. That was our last discussion. Are there any final comments or questions that anyone might have? Okay, well, we made up time, you guys. It's 11:55. So I want to open this up. Is there last chance for anyone in attendance who would like to give public comment? I want to open the floor for them.
Seeing no hands up.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for their participation in the meeting today. I'd also like to thank McCall and her staff at the BPE for their continued support, and especially to Chris Stockton for the time and effort she put into the RFP process with me and Kathy. So it required a good number of meetings, some training even, and putting time aside for a very structured deliberation session. And Chris's input was just super thoughtful and very helpful in making the final decision. So thank you, Chris, so much for that. And of course, I'd like to thank all the commission members for their service to the state and for their commitment to improving public school options in Montana. And shortly, you will receive an email from Kathy requesting an evaluation for today's meeting. And I just want to say that the input from these evaluations is very helpful to me and to Kathy in planning future meetings and striving to be better each time. Like I've already said, I'm going to put on my evaluation, have Trish update her Robert's Rules of Order. So that's really it. So have a wonderful month and we'll reconvene in Helena on October 10th for our fall advance with the National Charter School Institute, where we will officially build out our core values. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care.